Hey everyone, and welcome to Comics from the Multiverse, the DC Comics podcast from MailFuzz TV. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Matt.
It's Doomsday Clock Day.
It is. It is. Special occasion that comes every 2.5 months.
Yeah.
Connor's also here.
Yes, I'm here for Doomsday Clock.
Yes. Do you want to talk about next week, Matt?
This is where you need to put an edit of his feed just going out.
Just a flat line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we should wait till next week. Maybe we should just wait until Connor's not here and talk about Doomsday Clock then.
I am going to be here for the foreseeable future.
That sounds like a threat.
I know. My God, I've never heard such a dark, menacing sentence in my life.
I was gonna make a political joke, but I'm not gonna go there right now.
Yeah, we talk about DC Comics on this show, and on this week's episode we are talking about Doomsday Clock issue 10. We're also talking about Heroes in Crisis issue 9, Superman Leviathan Rising issue 1, or Leviathan Rising Special issue 1 to be exact. Batman Last Night on Earth issue 1. So that's it for the DC books. I intended on reading Detective Comics Annual. Time get away from me, and clearly I was not motivated. Clearly I was not motivated to read that book.
Yeah, I kept putting it off.
Yeah,
you know, that's where I'm at on Detective Comics right now.
Yeah,
even though it's a black casebook file, like,
yeah.
It's not really a huge selling point, is it?
But
I mean, for me it is.
We do have a couple more books though, because we have some Patreon picks to go through. So I'll be talking about X-Men issue 3. And Carl will be talking about Generation X issue 3, I think.
Well, I'm on the same issue as you are. So
yeah. Well,
You can't get rid of Scotland now. Oh, I love it.
I'm just confirming that it's Generation X, and I'm not misremembering what title it is.
I mean, I'll just take your word for it.
Well, what did you read, Connor?
I did read that. Assuming that's what the title of the book is.
You can't even remember.
We'll double check.
Oh dear.
It is Generation X. You're okay.
Excellent. All right, so that's what's on the cards for today's show. So there's a little bit of news to talk about, and stuff before we get to it, but. That's basically it. So week 5. So an interesting week 5. It's probably the most exciting week 5 in a while, just because there's a couple of big things to talk about.
Because Doomsday Clock is what you mean there.
Yeah, but I mean even
Leviathan
Rising Special is a big deal. You know, it's setting up this
not
event.
in comparison. It's not.
You know. Then
come on. Even you people who are fans will not say it's a big deal in comparison to Doomsday Clock.
I'm not saying it's as big as Doomsday Clock, but like it'd still be a big thing if that's what the big thing was this week.
Yeah, if Doomsday Clock wasn't here, it might be.
Yeah, I know. But see, if Heroes in Crisis was the big thing, I would just be equally disappointed in it. So, yeah.
Wait, what you...
Is Matt giving away some of his thoughts?
Yeah, are you implying you're disappointed in Leviathan Rising?
No.
Okay, that's what it sounded like.
It did sound like that a lot, yeah.
No.
Heroes in Crisis. If Heroes in Crisis came out during any other week and it was the big thing, I would be just as disappointed as I was in it today. Okay. That being said, I'm glad Doomsday Clock and Leviathan Rising came out because it really picked up.
See,
you know what I mean?
The way you phrased it, it sounded like if Heroes in Crisis was the big thing and not Leviathan Rising, you'd be just as disappointed as if you were disappointed in Leviathan.
No, Leviathan's dope. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have we started Leviathan? The Leviathan rises, yes.
Connor only read like a third of it.
Half.
Which is actually really weird because when you actually look through the book, they kind of all link together, and it sort of starts and ends with the Bendis. It's
like an anthology movie where a different director did a different scene. Yeah,
but they all tie in. They all tie in.
Yeah, but they're all the same story. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So Connor comes in and he's like, "Oh, the art's different. I'll read this."
Especially
that is pretty much what I did.
Yeah. The lowest section especially was just it wasn't even like I almost didn't realize we moved out of the ruckus section because anyway, we'll talk about that later.
I was wondering why we were doing this now.
It was just we're making fun of you for only reading chunks of it.
Saving it for later.
You can save it for later. So yeah, in terms of some news, a couple of little delays to talk about. Shazam issues 7 and 8 have both been pushed back 2 weeks each. Issue 7 is now going to be on the 3rd of July, so that'll be week 1 July. So that means there's no issue in June, presumably then. Assuming we had issue 6 already, did we? Or was the last one we read issue 5?
No, issue 6 comes out next week.
Oh, okay, fair enough. In that case, they've all been knocked back.
6 was already pushed
okay.
at some point, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then issue 8 is going to be on July 31st.
Two that month. That'll be dope.
Yeah. But it's still 4 weeks apart, so it's not like impossible.
Issue 9 remains on the schedule for August 21st. So yeah, it sounds like 7 and 8 getting pushed back, or just because 6 was already pushed back, and it's just
it does, yeah,
knock-on effect.
Yeah,
that makes
it going.
Makes some sense. I mean, we'll see if they hit these dates, but they'll probably be roughly around this. I can see maybe 9 getting pushed back a little bit because August 21st is only like
3 weeks.
3 weeks, yeah, from the previous one.
Yeah,
it's not out of the question, but we'll see. And then the other delay is Batman Damned's final issue. Issue 3 has slid back to June 26th. It's interesting. Do you know what I love about this? There was an update on this article in Newsarama on April 10th saying it had been pushed back to June 19th.
So it's only slipped another 2 weeks.
It was originally meant to come out on March 13th.
Man, if I was excited for this book, I'd be so mad.
I know. I mean,
I'm
really
gonna read the whole thing when it's done.
I mean, I enjoyed the first 2 well. If I really like the art particularly, but yeah, I mean, I've forgotten what happened in those 2 issues. I have no idea what's going on anymore.
I'll sit down one evening and read all 3 issues, and I'm sure it'll be very enjoyable.
It probably will be. But hell of a book to try and read. Unlike, say, Doomsday Clock, which has had delays, I definitely don't remember what's in that book, really, outside of the vague premise.
It's different in it, where it's only 3 issues. They're quite long issues, and the first one, I think, was last September, so it'll be nearly a year. We'll be coming up on it for 3 issues.
Yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much it for the books. But there's some movie news. So sometimes we're a little bit guilty of like forgetting to talk about movie news because, basically before we start with, was there comic book news this week, and we'll look for comic book news, and then we'll not talk about the movies. But there's a couple of things worth mentioning. One, Tom King is co-writing the New Gods movie with Ava DuVernay. That's a thing.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm not super excited by that.
I wouldn't say I'm excited about it. I would say that I am. But basically, the sure was basically the perfect answer for it.
No, I think no. I'd go further. I'd say I'm actively disappointed because I think Tom King, even at his best, is not what I'd want from his style is not what I'd want from New Gods as a movie. Mr. Miracle as a separate thing like that. That story. Sure.
I feel like you have to start with something like that before you can get to the more Kirby-esque.
No, because I want straight into the Kirby. Otherwise, what's the point?
No, you have to build into it. I feel.
Yeah. You have to start with something a bit more personal and grounded before you go full.
The big cosmic-y. Yeah, so I'm fine with that. I haven't been a real big fan of Ava DuVernay's directing. Like, it's fine. But I guess if you want to do interpersonal relationship of gods, I don't feel like she's a bad choice. So,
Yeah. I'm just surprised that it's like, a DC movie's actually moving along. Yeah, it's like, this actually feels like it's moving somewhere. Speaking of, apparently the Supergirl movies, they're aiming to start shooting that in early 2020, which means maybe that's starting to move along a little bit. So that's the thing.
Do you know what movies won't be moving along? Probably. The Flash movie again.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, and Cyborg, because their contracts both ran out, so they're gone. There was also an interview with Matthew Vaughn, who basically confirmed that Man of Steel 2 is just dead. Like, it's just not happening.
Damn it.
Yeah, he started talking about his plans for it, and
that's more or less. I just wanted Matthew Vaughn's Superman. Like, you know.
Yeah, although the pitch apparently was very weird. For a potential reboot trilogy, it was a very weird thing where Superman didn't come to Earth as a baby; he was an adult on Krypton before he came, and he had loyalty between both worlds, and like
hard pass.
Yeah, I don't want that.
Yeah, I don't want that either.
Yeah, there's a character like that, and it's called Zod. And Zod's a bad guy. So,
isn't that just what we use Supergirl for, though? Like, not she wasn't an adult, but essentially.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
So just plug in Supergirl now, and you're fine. I've noticed that when I have good Superman comics, I'm not that distressed by not good Superman movies.
Yeah. For the record, this pitch had Mark Millar's name attached to it, so just.
Well, then hard pass. Yeah. No, come on, bye. Thank you.
To be fair though, Matthew Vaughn has made a career out of taking Mark Millar comics and turning them into good movies somehow. That's what he does. Him and Jane Goldman, who write the scripts.
Yeah.
Special touch, haven't they?
Yeah, they really do. So there was that, and then something that was actually reported as like a done deal before, and then it was revealed like 2 days later that no, it's actually a shortlist. Now isn't it officially being confirmed that Robert Pattinson is indeed the Batman, and Matt Reeves the Batman.
Yeah, I got no problem with this. He's fine. I think he'd be a very good Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, maybe. It's funny because like I saw him in High Life recently and he was okay in that. It was fine. I think the problem with him is just the stigma of what he's been in before. he's got this giant Twilight stigma that's just like hanging over his head.
I mean, I'm not holding it. He's been very open of going, yeah, I just did it for the paycheck.
Oh, he has. Yeah, it's actually kind of funny hearing him talk about those movies.
Yeah,
he's very dismissive
he's
about
been
them.
Brutally honest about that, and so I can respect that.
Well, it's like that's why Charlie Hunnam dropped out of the 50 Shades movies, because he looked ahead and saw the stigma. So, not necessarily he's that. I mean, he's a fine actor, but I think he saw the writing on the wall there.
I mean, even fine and okay is being generous with him.
Yeah. Hey, he's great in Pacific Rim. He does exactly what he needs to do.
He's not great.
Passable.
He is serviceable in Pacific Rim.
Yeah, I think that's all you need out of that character.
No. What you needed was charisma.
Nah, fine.
I mean, he's not a black hole of charisma like some other actors, but he's not got any positive charisma either. He breaks even.
He was good in Guy Ritchie's King Arthur.
I'm not even taking your word for that. No.
I mean, he was as good as everyone else was in that movie.
Yeah, that's an underrated movie. I'm gonna say it. After seeing Aladdin this last week, that's the more. I'd rather watch King Arthur again than Aladdin.
Look, King Arthur is a bad movie, but it's a really fun to watch.
Yeah,
I'd happily watch it again now.
And he's perfect in that role. He's perfect as that actor in a bad movie. Yeah. Yeah. So,
I feel the same about Robin Hood from last year. If you didn't see that yet.
Yeah, that one looked a little bit too far past.
No, I don't know. It fits right in with King Arthur.
Does it?
Yeah.
And who's is that? Taron Egerton?
Yeah.
That one? Okay. The wife likes him, so I might have to watch that. So I got her to see the Kingsman movies, so it works.
All these terrible movies. So not Kingsman, of course. So
I was gonna say
no. I'm talking about this Robin Hood and King Arthur nonsense.
King Arthur, the Legend of the Sword. Pete, do yourself a favor. Shut off your brain, make some popcorn. Enjoy Guy Ritchie doing medieval stuff.
No.
He says no. I don't think I will.
I'm only interested if the Legend of the Sword ends with the sword going straight up your ass. That is the only way I'm going to be interested.
Hey, I don't need to know about your kinks there, Pete. All right? Keep them to yourself.
There's nothing sexual about it, Matt. It's just purely about the violence.
Matt, you need to bring back Overload and put that up for a vote and make him watch it.
Nah. I don't have the time. I barely got through 3 episodes of Supergirl this week.
Priorities. Not that Supergirl should be on your priority list necessarily. Legends of Tomorrow and Doom Patrol, perhaps, on the other hand, maybe should be on your priority list.
I'm entering John Blame status on Doom Patrol. I'm just not watching it now because you want me to watch it so much.
Oh my god.
So,
Matt, you're
dick move, but yes.
Stop being a child and watch Doom Patrol.
Better people have told me to stop being a child, Pete.
I guarantee you that's not accurate because I am better than everyone else you've ever met.
Yeah,
so
I know. Most of my family members have told me this.
Yeah, and they're all worse than me. So listen to me.
And like I tell them, nay. I say thee nay.
Okay, Matt. Don't watch Doom Patrol.
I won't. Ringing endorsement. Y'all heard it now. Pete said don't watch Doom Patrol.
I'm going to come back next week. That's going to be Matt's ringtone.
Just a reminder.
So more on the Batman movie. So there was a report. So, I mean, this is not really a surprise. Apparently, the contract is like for 3 movies potentially. So it's okay, right? So potentially this will be a Matt Reeves Batman trilogy. Okay, fine.
I'm okay with that.
There's been mixed reports though. There was a report about Catwoman and Penguin being at least in the movie, if not the main villains, which is weird because it makes you think of one thing.
I'm okay with that.
I am
as
not.
long as the Penguins are suicide bombers.
I do not want to be reminded of Batman Returns in any way, shape, or form. I'll say that right now.
It's too late. It's gonna happen.
Movie's garbage.
What is this movie?
Penguin.
Garbage. What are you looking at, Matt? Pay attention to the show.
I'm looking at Robbie Pat's his what he's got going on.
Okay.
Like his filmography. He has a movie called Waiting for the Barbarians, and based off of the title,
You're interested.
I'm interested.
Yeah.
No idea. Based off of a novel.
I hope it's like an avant-garde, like spiritual.
He does
film.
do a lot of that sort of indie stuff, though, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, I've had Lost City Z, which is a book that I own, and I've started reading, but it's very dry, so I haven't gotten very far. But he's in that, and that's been on my to-watch pile for like a year and a half now. So,
I
yeah.
honestly don't know what the last thing I saw him in was. I don't know if I've seen anything with him in it since Twilight.
Okay, so this is about a border town in South Africa during during the Imperial era. So I could go either way. Yeah.
Exciting.
So you guys, I think we're right. It's on the avant-garde side.
The energy right there is through the roof.
Mark Rylance is in it though, so you know.
I mean, he's not that much of a draw.
But he's good at what he does.
Yeah, I won't argue with that.
He's done a lot of like Cronenberg. He's on here twice. Let's see if there's more. Lost City of Z. He did A Good Time, which I heard was good. Softy Brothers. So yeah, he hasn't been done like the teen stuff since 2011. And that's a good half of his career. So I think we need to drop it. All right, stop complaining about it. Just accept it. Everyone complained about Heath Ledger. I think that's been the go-to. And he ended up being like, he's up there best Joker of all time.
Oh, sure.
Right up there with Hamill, you know?
Yeah, I have no strong feelings with the matter. He might very well be very good. Maybe fine.
Well, I went from, okay, to, people are hating this because they're being stupid. I am totally for it. So.
That really is a child.
Yeah. Oh, I hate the idea of social media right now that when something comes out and it starts to become like a snowball, and then that just becomes the accepted narrative. And it drives me nuts because people are just so keen to just jump onto it, you know?
Yeah.
So, because you ask somebody, well, why? Well, because Twilight. Well, he hasn't done Twilight for 8 years. So.
Exactly. I mean, I'm looking at his IMDb. I think his first credit was 2004, and then the last Twilight. I mean, technically, if you count Part 2, was 2012, but I mean, it was
Same
all
movie.
filmed. Yeah. So I mean, if you go to 2011, where where he was actually finished filming it, that's what 7 years, and then here we are now, 8 years later, and it's all that he's got for this.
So he's done since I would say that he's earned an indie credit here by working with people like Cronenberg, Werner Herzog, the Safdie brothers, James Gray. Like, these aren't like he's in the next Christopher Nolan, which is not really indie, but that's a prestige there. You know,
it's definitely
like,
not indie, man.
No, but like there's a prestige there, so I just, you know, enough's enough. He's Batman. You're all gonna go see it. Anyone that tells me you're not gonna go see it, you're a lie. Because I said I wasn't seeing Suicide Squad, and I went and saw it. So, you know,
we told you would.
No. Also, the Scots Madman was like, "You better, because I'm not doing this review by myself."
that is accurate.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, I'm not seeing Dark Phoenix. I'm putting my foot down.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna
making
go.
my stance.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I would say I think it'll be the first X-Men movie I've not seen in the cinema.
Yeah, I can't.
Just don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah, I can't do that. My completionist brain, which thanks to War of the Realms has been reactivated.
All of this translates to Sophie Turner's there.
Yeah.
And Chastain.
Yeah.
Let's not forget Chastain.
Well?
Yeah, Chastain's there.
She wasn't in the trailer, was she?
She was.
Yeah, she is. She's blonde. It upsets me.
Yeah, she's got blonde hair, so she's not as instantly recognizable, but she's there.
Fair enough.
She's very pale.
To be honest, I've literally only seen the trailer once. Yeah. So.
I got the It Chapter 2 trailer with her on the big screen, and hot damn.
Joe, somehow I keep getting that X-Men trailer. I saw Ma, right? And like typically when I see a horror movie, it'll just be all horror trailers, and it was like 4 horror trailers in a row, and then the Dark Phoenix trailer. Like,
it's gonna be a horror to watch.
Yeah, that's what they're telling you.
Yeah, let me escape it, you bastards! Come on.
I got it in front of John Wick. I didn't get it with Godzilla, although I went to see Godzilla on the IMAX, and I got for the first time in the cinema, I got the new Star Wars trailer on the IMAX. And I thought
it's
that
good,
was nice.
Yeah. I got it in the Dolby theater, so when the TIE Fighter goes by, I felt it.
Yeah.
Same with the It Chapter 2. When I saw John Wick, I saw it in the Dolby theater, and I think that just upped the creepiness because you're surrounded by all the sound in the Dolby theater. So, but yeah, last night for Godzilla, I got a bunch of stupid action trailers, 3 of which I'm excited to go see. Terminator, not so much, but I got Hobbs and Shaw, and I got Last Blood. I can't remember the other one.
No, I didn't get any of these.
Yeah.
Did you get Stuber? I got Stuber.
No, I got that one with John Wick though.
I've not seen that. What was the one I got? I got Anna. I think was the one with John Wick, the one that stood out.
Yeah, that's Luc Besson doing Luc Besson. He has 2 settings. He has like kick-ass woman, you know, and he's got extreme sci-fi. This is more the first. So.
Yeah.
So obviously we're going to start off with Doomsday Clock, issue 10. Geoff Johns, Gary Frank, same team for all 10 issues. You know the drill at this point. We know what we're doing.
It's been nearly 2 years. You know what you're getting.
Yes.
Since the last issue?
Feels like it sometimes.
Yeah, right.
And this issue is kind of a big deal. This issue kind of just casually drops in a whole new concept about the entirety of the DC universe.
Yeah, this out Morrison's Morrison.
Does it though?
Yes.
I feel it plays in the same sandbox,
No.
But whereas
it builds on it, don't get me wrong, and it's related to Morrison, but it's a higher level than even Morrison's shenanigans.
Well, that kind of goes with what I was gonna say. Whereas over here, Morrison's over here making like psychic scorpion assassins, and John's over here like, I'm just gonna build this really detailed castle in the sandbox, So, but yeah. Poof.
Yes.
Let me just say, as a Superman fan, this is the issue I've been waiting for, right? To see how Watchmen and the DCU go together. And I kind of had a feeling it was going to play on like the origins of Superman, being that he's kind of he's not the birth of comics, but he's the birth of superhero comics, right? So, and Watchmen was a deconstruction of the superhero genre. And so I was waiting for them to kind of, I don't want to say pile up, but when are those 2 threads going to weave together? And it finally happened in issue 10.
Yeah, the story of this issue is really just Manhattan sort of telling his story of how he came to the DC universe and what he's been doing essentially, and it ties into the actor from the old movie, and notably he arrives in 1938, and that that was before we got to the Superman stuff, but I noticed that year immediately. I went 1938. That's very specific.
April 18th, which I did cross check, and that is when the first issue was published.
Yeah, Action number 1
of Action Comics. Also, but it goes a little bit further because it goes to 1928 when he first arrives in Hollywood. So it fills in a little bit more of the actor story, which I liked because it did make it feel like the Black Freighter stuff and almost John's commenting on culture. That this almost feels like a different world because it's almost 100 years ago. But it kind of is similar in many ways. So
when does it go to the 20s?
It's 1928 when he first gets there. He tells it's January 31st, 1928. Carver Coleman arrives in Los Angeles with $17 and clean change of clothes.
Oh, so Manhattan's not necessarily there in 1920.
No,
okay.
But that's where this. Yeah, you get filled in on the story, but he first shows up on April 18th to talk to Carver Coleman.
Yeah.
Because that's a significant date for Manhattan.
Because he specifically says, April 18th, 1930, I am drawn to Superman's world for reasons I don't understand in this moment. And he even talks later on about how, why is the time different? Why is it 1938 when I came from, 1980 something? Yeah.
Right.
Because we start with like the black and white scene from the movie, but then we get the cut, and it's like, okay, we're actually in this time period now. We're not just using this story to represent things anymore. We're actually going to be dealing with the character, the actor.
This is Frank just flexing his muscles, because the fact that it goes from intricately shaded black and white to color, like as soon as you change, it's almost like Wizard of Oz, there, like the two worlds. And is that supposed to be Hedy Lamarr?
Yes.
Okay, because that's an interesting thing too, because Hedy Lamarr, I don't know if you guys know this, she helped create Wi-Fi.
Yeah, we know.
So yeah, so I don't know. A lot of people don't know this.
It was on like 2 different TV shows we watched in the space of like 6 months.
Legends of Tomorrow being one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shoot. Okay, that's cool. I didn't know that. But yeah, so for the people that don't know, she was a femme fatale actress through the 30s and 40s, and she ended up like she really understood electronics at the time.
Yeah,
I forget how, but she helped the military develop the like wireless sinking missiles so that they couldn't be jammed during World War II, and then they took those patents and started applying them to like walkie-talkies and telecommunications, and finally it was that patent that helped put together Wi-Fi. So the reason that we can do anything anymore is because of Hedy Lamarr. And I thought that was pretty cool that Johns puts her in here, and she's kind of a godmother of the modern world. And here she is in 1938, acting. Well, not 1930, it's 1950s at that point. But yeah, that was a kind of subtle choice there.
Yeah, no, I like that, and Carver's in a bad spot. There's a lot of stuff, because the thing with Manhattan narration is that he's constantly jumping around in terms of where he is in the timeline. Like,
it's impressive that you never feel lost, though. You always know exactly where you are. Like, it always makes sense when he says something.
Well, it does, but jumping around at the dates, that's why I read it twice, because I feel like I'm doing the zigzag, right? Because you're looking at these different. Because he jumps back and forth. So I was just looking at the individual dates.
I'm looking here in the space of 3 panels. Yeah. You're on Mars in present day 2019-ish, whatever the present day is at the minute, of him defeating all the heroes last issue. And the next panel is mid-80s back in the Watchmen universe.
Right.
And then the next panel after that is April 18th, 38.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we even get to that page, though, like the interest is the idea that he's going to be dead, right? Mm-hmm. And the day before he dies, he has this meeting with his mother, and his mother's basically brings up that he's got a lie, and she's blackmailing him for something. And I couldn't help but feel like the whole idea of his mother being the one who's behind his death and blackmailing him. Like, I don't know if there's some commentary on here about the idea of the creator being like the demise, the person, right? The idea of, we're talking about the DC universe, that the creator can be the problem. Firefly.
Oh, we've seen that, haven't we?
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and just and how that plays into Manhattan, and him being a creator, and how he was created too by an accident and whatnot. Like there's all these shades that go like not shades, but levels that John's is slowly building to take back down.
Yeah. So Manhattan, yeah. Well, after the introduction of Carver Coleman, it's kind of like, so we're on Mars. It kind of establishes he's jumping around again in time. If anything, this is the page more than anything. It kind of just sort of gives you the flow of what the book's going to be, and then he's back in the 30s, back in 1938, and then we get to the actual meeting with Carver Coleman, which happens when he's been beaten up by the police because he's a homeless guy. Because he's down in his luck, things aren't going well, and Manhattan appears and deals with the cops, and it leads to this kind of odd friendship between them.
Well, it's because Carver's first reaction, even though the guy was just the cop was just beating him up, he whacked him on the head with the baton pretty hard by the look of it.
Yeah.
And then Manhattan shows up and blasts him. It's seemingly unintentionally is the blast. Right. It doesn't feel like he directed it at them. It was more just his arrival. And then, Carver immediately rushes over to check if they're actually all right. And, Manhattan finds that interesting. That, okay, no. Even that this is terrible. He's still... And this guy was just awful to me. He went over to help.
Yeah. Which, I mean, immediately you're thinking, okay, again, this is the idea that this world has hope in it. This world has kindness in it. Which is something that Manhattan is not quite comprehending. Yeah, so again, it's establishing that we're jumping between, because the whole thing of this issue is that it's about Manhattan learning who Superman is, learning what he means to the world, and the idea that once he changed things, it's like everything's been counting down to the day he meets Superman after because he's taking care of all the heroes on Mars. Superman's in a coma. Not to get to the end here, but the last panel of the book is Superman waking up. This meeting is imminent. This is about to happen.
I assume that's what issue 11 is, and then 12 is some aftermath stuff.
Almost like an epilogue.
Yeah.
Quite possibly. It kind of depends how much is going to happen.
What's that called in the film? The denouement? It's like the action after the climax. Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. And they go to a diner, and he sits and tells him stuff, and he tells this character, this Carver Coleman, like about his future. He's like, hey, this time next year, whatever it is, you're going to get picked up for this role, and that's going to lead to your success, and all that. And it's kind of weird because he kind of like sees John as like a fortune teller almost to let him know what to do. But ultimately, everything that's happening was going to happen anyway, because Manhattan's not like giving him hints and tips. He's just saying this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, but that's also the does it happen because
he told him it happens? Yeah. Is it self-fulfilling?
It's that timey-wimey type of stuff where was it always going to happen, or it's because he has knowledge, so now he has the confidence that it's going to happen.
Well, see, makes it happen. In the context of the story, in the context of what Doomsday Clock is doing, I would say it's less to do with self-fulfilling in that sense, and more because we know the way Manhattan works is that he does actually just experience time differently. He does just experience it in different orders and stuff, right?
But there's also goes to the ending. He's a man of inaction. Right?
Sure. But I think looking at it in the context of Doomsday Clock, the way I would interpret it is that it's not so much that he's affecting anything or he is... It's more just that he gives him the belief that the good thing is going to happen, the assurance, and that makes him feel hope. He's inadvertently giving someone hope. And I think that's the theme that ties it into the overall story of the book. Is that Carver Coleman, just by knowing and having this confidence that it is going to happen, at the very least gets him through the rough year ahead before he gets to that point where he gets this part, or whatever. That's the way it was sticking out to me.
No, that's a good word. But yeah, it's...
I do love this sequence where we just cut through the next 20 years or so of his reaction, and there's the one where I had to act surprised where they cut when they read my name for best actor.
Yeah, that's good. And notably, the clock in the diner wall is at the same position that the clock at the back of the book has been every time.
Yeah.
Just pointing that out. Yeah. the Carver Coleman,
I just would say on that clock, but the panel where the clock shows up, at that point it's at like 4 minutes to midnight, and he says, "Oh, I'm going to look 3 minutes into the future," but he's unable to, right? But that that 3 minutes into the future is overlaid with the clock, which would put it at like 1 minute to midnight.
Yeah. So yeah, because by the end of the sequence, like Carver Coleman, he's got like a fancy suit on, he's well dressed, he's got a tuxedo on, and then he's like finding out he's going to die, and the whole thing, and then it cuts back, it snaps back to the first meeting where he's the young kid again, the young 20-something, who's just working as a he's not even working, he got fired.
He's homeless, yeah.
He got fired because he caught his manager kissing a guy. So no, like it's all these things. It's really, really well done, and that's where it gets into the Superman stuff, because then we get like, okay, something's happened, in Kansas, and we get was it Kansas?
You hear on the radio, you hear about the car being lifted in New York.
It was in New York, and we see the car. We see the Action Comics #1 cover, that car, and people are investigating. Oh, there's a guy lifted over his head. And this is where Manhattan really starts to talk about Superman. The crowd, the car, Superman, they were never here. The world has changed. And then he goes through all the things that happened in the original timeline, all the other heroes that soon after Superman started to become heroes. We get Alan Scott becoming Green Lantern.
I assume these are all their publication dates originally. July.
Again, I cross-checked them.
Yeah, I just assumed Johns had done his homework and just took him at his word.
Johns is the type that he doesn't need to do his homework, but I double-checked just for accuracy.
Yeah. So we get Jay Garrick, get Carter Hall, get Al Pratt, get Kent Nelson, get Sandman, Jim
Wesley
Corrigan.
Dodds. I love how you went Sandman over Wesley Dodds after taking all their first names.
I don't know why. For some reason, I just wanted to say Sandman. Although Wesley Dodds is a pretty good name, honestly.
Wesley Dodds is a great name. He's a character that I want to read more of. So if anybody has recommendations, that aren't just JSA, like...
I mean, the Sandman Mystery Theater. Is that
what it is?
His stuff. I think I'm pretty sure that's a lot of his stuff.
Yeah, for anyone, because obviously we have a lot of listeners who aren't necessarily as like super have a super history with DC. I'll just go through these and see who they are. Jay Garrick is the original Flash, the Golden Age Flash.
Right.
Carter Hall, Hawkman. Al Pratt, the Atom.
The original Atom.
Yeah. Kent Nelson's Dr. Fate. Wesley Dodds Sandman. Jim Corrigan becomes the Spectre. And
Rex Tyler
and Rex Tyler's our man at the bottom there, yeah. So no, this was a great page, because for those of us who have been waiting for the GSA like teases and stuff, and then you turn the page and you get the round table, you get them
sat at the table, and I'm like, oh, because this is the page that Gary Frank's been sharing for about 3 months, and I've been waiting on this moment of like finally.
And I just love how they're talking about how Superman was an inspiration to them.
And they're waiting for him to come and join them. And they've extended the invitation.
And then Johnny Thunder's there, with the Thunderbolt spirit. And then ultimately, once like it gets to the end, and the page of narration, or the panel of narration with Green Lantern towards the end of this, in the middle of the page, is November 1940. Green Lantern has never heard of Superman, and it's like something changed.
It repeats the moment, doesn't it? Because you have the moment with the picture where they're waiting for Superman, and then. Okay, no, we move on, and they just take it because he doesn't exist yet.
And he says no one has, and it says where is he? It's not actually his narration that says that, but it kind of falls on neatly. So here's the thing: this is the moment in the book where I realized this isn't talking about Flashpoint. This is talking about the first time things changed. This is talking about Crisis.
Well, not just Crisis, but just the idea of the Golden Age and going to the Silver Age, right? Because then things changed. Because now we had to keep Superman modern. Right?
Yeah,
so that's when it changes in the 50s.
Sure, yeah. But what I mean is that... Yeah, okay, sure, it's pre-Crisis. But what I'm saying is, this is the first... Because as soon as he doesn't exist anymore, I thought, because they had to put him on a separate Earth. Because they had to explain why, there was two Supermans at one point. But when did they actually officially remove him, though, from Earth 2? Because for some time, wasn't there like technically Superman on Earth 2 as well?
Yeah, that's where the whole idea of Power Girl being Supergirl was that he was there, but he had died in battle, him and Batman, and then they take over. Huntress and Power Girl, they become the ones. So, but then that got wiped out.
The New 52 Earth too,
it.
Right?
Well, no, but that was based off a precedent. That was before. Yeah. So
yeah, New 52 is a bit newer than what I was thinking.
No, but that's the exact plot of the New 52 Earth too.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but that was borrowed from the original idea that Supergirl became Power Girl, and that she's the new Metropolis Super.
Yeah, because if you didn't know, like, you know, Batman and Superman were with all these characters, and then in the Silver Age, they relaunched them to be with the new Silver Age version of, you know, Hal Jordan, Barry Allen, so on and so on.
Yeah.
And because of that, it made this weird thing where, oh, wait a minute, we have two versions of Batman and Superman now. So they had this idea of there being two Earths, right? Of Earth 1 and Earth 2.
Yep.
And that's kind of where the multiverse started.
Flash. Yeah. And again, it was the Flash. It was the Flash of two worlds that made them aware of one another. You know, so again, playing with the continuity.
So,
yeah.
But just in terms of this issue, this was the moment where I went, this is dealing with more than just the newest change. This is dealing with
all of the changes.
Yeah, that's what it gets to as we go through the book from that point on. You know, we go to the Kent farm and we see multiple versions. You know, it's like it's 1956, Superman's in Metropolis for the first time, so that's the first big change, right? And then later on, it's like it's 1986. It's, you know, this is post-crisis Superman. John Byrne.
Byrne's Man of Steel.
Yeah. And then it changes again and again. You know, one of these is Secret Origin. It's happening over and over again. Well, you know, one's New 52. Eventually New 52, and we get the idea that, okay, his parents died at this stage in his life. Oh, now they're alive again, and then they died at this stage in their life. And this is all happening. So none of this is actually, just to correct what I just said there, none of this is actually New 52 yet. We get to New 52 because eventually Manhattan decides to influence things, which is what we already knew he did, which was moving the lantern.
Just before we get to that stuff, Matt, did you enjoy him visiting the Legion?
Oh my God, I got to that page.
Oh yeah,
and I don't want to say I cried.
Oh yeah, I'm not skipping ahead yet. Like, you go because he's like, oh, Superman's like the center of all this, and then he's like, even in the future, you know, millions of years or whatever, and then you get to that page and there's what, Cosmic Boy,
1,000 years from now,
Lightning Boy, and Saturn Girl,
and they're in the exact costumes that they were in that first on that famous cover of Superboy. And because he was so lonely, he was approached by teenagers from the future, so he could have a sense of belonging. And that even plays into the Johns and Frank Superman and the Legion of Superheroes story from Action Comics, right? Which, again, is pulling this issue was called Action.
Yeah.
So the fact this is pulling from different versions of all of that, like, oh, man.
Yeah, and it basically, Manhattan comes to this realization that this Earth that he's on, this universe, and Superman specifically, seems to be kind of the center of everything. And he's in a multiverse, sure, but this particular Earth is different because what changes on this Earth, or this universe, affects all of the other Earths in the multiverse. And then he names it. He names what this Earth is, what this universe is. And he calls it the Metaverse.
This is such a fantastic how has this not been done before, this concept?
As soon as I read that, I went, this is so simple.
It's going to be up there with Hypertime, right? Like, Hypertime was another one of those ones that when I finally realized what it was, I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. This is how we have, you know, all of this time passing in comics, but not really. It's because of Hypertime, you know? And now we have all of these changes and stuff because of the Metaverse.
So we're always watching the Metaverse as the prime universe, essentially.
Right. Earth Zero, right, is you change, that is the control. You know, when you're doing science, right? This is the control group, right? So it was meant to be. You change this, you see how the multiverse changes, right? And how everything else reacts.
And this comfortably encompasses all the different versions of the multiverse. You know, the 52, the Dark Multiverse. You know, well, any other version, it works with all of them.
This is the thing that the madman that Geoff Johns is like. Obviously, we're hoping this will bring back certain things that we lost, like JSA, like Legion, like, you know, so on and so on. And hopefully some characters get memories back, because, you know, the New 52 in a lot of ways was a really harsh transition because of what it took away. But ultimately, what this book is kind of doing now is trying to tie in all of DC history into some kind of fabric that makes sense.
Yeah. You know what this is?
It's a crisis.
This is Han Solo. Well, yeah, this is Han Solo saying it's true, all of it. Like, everything's happened. Like, there's been Crisis Undone. There's been 52 different Earths. There's been
infinite Earths.
Yeah,
infinite Earths. There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah.
This does now, even more so than before, feel like a crisis in all but name.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that this is the scope it's dealing with.
Yeah.
These are the concepts we're playing with. It's, for all intents and purposes, a crisis in terms of its, in terms of the way it shapes the universe going forward.
And I mean, we're all assuming here at the end of Doomsday Clock that it's changing once again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, if we're assuming the JSA and the Legion are coming back, I have to imagine that at the very least he's going to fix what he changed, because he'll come to learn that what he did was wrong.
Right.
He'll accept that.
Yeah, this isn't... I know that Johns is trying to hint that this ends in a fight. There's no way this ends in a fight. That's not what this book is.
No, that would be so kind of out of left field at this point.
I mean, Superman might try and punch him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where he's gonna go, no, you need to sit and listen. And that's why whatever I think happens, that's why Manhattan can't see into the future afterwards, is because he does something that changes himself.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's so, at the start of this book, when he's looking through the time, mm-hmm. right? He's not aware that Superman has changed time immediately, right? It's as far as he's concerned, it is it's 38, and then the 50s exist, but Superman hasn't changed yet, right? There's that moment where for him it changes as well,
right?
And so this blackness that he sees,
mm-hmm.
it could be just this is such a shift that he can't see into the next stage of that universe yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that all makes sense.
I'm following.
He sounded really confused.
No, I'm following. I'm not sure if that's kind of what they've set up in terms of the rules of the way it changes for him. I feel like it'll be more like either he will literally die, but I feel like kind of ultimately it's going to be about convincing him that him learning and realizing, either on his own or being convinced by Superman that he shouldn't have done what he did. Because this book ends with John saying that this world is built on hope and I have become the villain. Like, mm-hmm. he realizes that he's the bad guy in this story because of how he's meddled.
But the question is he realizing that he shouldn't be a villain, or is it more the idea that they need a villain to have hope against?
Yeah.
To rally against, to inspire, to have Superman to inspire them and be hopeful, they have to have a villain to fight. So maybe he'll kind of lean into that role instead.
I mean, they're going to have to sell me on that.
Doing this,
I don't know why would he? But like
you need the villain to hate.
But they didn't need that before. They had enough villains before.
Yeah, but Manhattan is egotistical as shit.
I think he knows his role to play is that he's become the villain, and that by becoming the villain, he's changed everything, just like Veidt did, right? Because he brings that up at the end, is that he allows Veidt to walk free because he's a man of inaction, and that's just how him and Superman are different. Superman's a man of action. Superman's not going to let this villain get away with whatever happened. So whether that means he's completely changed, but what I don't think he's going to be this much egotistical villain like Connor's ending is, by him doing against his nature, by him changing things and taking action, by being a man of inaction. It'd be like Superman sitting around and not doing anything because he is a man of action. That would make Superman a villain in that term. Like, I'm not using the term villain as
Yeah, I think what's interesting is we keep talking about him as, and he's talking about himself as a being of inaction, right? And that is kind of villainous. Yet it was his action in moving the lantern just because he could that actually caused so much of this. So as much as he thinks he thinks that his doing nothing that's the bad thing. It's him actually, having some sort of action was just as bad.
Yeah, but the way you describe like him like thinking they need hope or need a villain again, it makes it sound like he had the motivation to do it. Where
no, maybe not at the time, but I think he might come to that conclusion. I don't think he had that conclusion that the whole time. That was never his plan all along. I'm not saying that
because I don't think he had the plan.
He's a scientist.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
This is all an experiment to him.
Yeah, I agree with Matt. Like to me, him moving that lantern is like, let's see what happens if I do this.
Yeah, I'm not going against any of that. All of that, I'm talking about here at the end where he has that realization that he's become the villain. I'm saying from that point on, he might embrace it and go with that role. I'm not saying any of the stuff he did before, all the lantern moving, that was curiosity. That wasn't villainy. There is a clear difference. Don't forget,
this is also the metaphor of the chess game has gone throughout this entire series. So here, this is where this is going to end up being is. It's him and Superman, and not necessarily a chess match, but they're going to be on opposite sides, right? Because they're polar opposites. And this is where the discussion's going to be, and I feel like it's going to be Superman telling him, like, what Pete said, we have enough villains. You're not exactly a villain. You're just a being of curiosity. And that sometimes that curiosity, subtle saying, curiosity killed the cat. So, him being curious causes all this, and it awakened the metaverse. And now that's something that our heroes in the DCU proper, are they going to be aware of it, right? Or is this the whole concept of the metaverse going to be lost to them when Manhattan leaves?
I mean, that's an entirely different question. that's opening a whole other can of worms. I don't know. So he basically creates New 52 Superman. Like he goes and checks where Superman comes into fruition now, and we get the New 52 origin where the parents die when he's in high school, and
prom.
Prom's in high school.
No, I know, but he's going to prom, and that was in the Grant Morrison action run, which again, Action Comics, like it's the through line here. This is why I love Johns.
Go
ahead.
Question about the Superman changing.
Yeah.
Does he directly change it, or is it just an impact of him changing the
it's a butterfly effect.
Yeah, butterfly. Okay. Yeah.
Him because in every other metaverse, the Justice Society is still around. They just don't get influenced by Superman. There are these older heroes that existed, and Johns he based his JSA off of the Golden Age by Robinson, which put them into this real world of what would have happened afterwards. And they all kind of try to go back to civilian life, but they can't. So even without the Justice Society, that completely changes Superman and the role of the heroes in the New 52. Yeah. For whatever reason that is. So he almost removes the Justice Society, and that's what causes the New 52 to happen.
I loved, I said how before I said he was kind of egotistical. He literally by this he's making Superman more like him. He talks about how it makes him more distant from humanity. I understand him, or I relate more. He is kind of egotistical in the sense that this is he's already agreed that this man is the linchpin of this entire multiverse. I'm going to make him more. I like that he's more like me now.
What does he say?
Because and he does like it because he says it's intoxicating. Like he's enjoying this.
Yeah, because he says I've altered the metaverse, and in turn the multiverse. Yeah. And it says a year ago the metaverse became aware of my hubris, and that's where Wally shows up.
Yeah.
Right, saying I know what you did. So yeah, where's the line I'm looking for? It's why is he the center of the universe? And as a Superman fan, I freaking love that. So
no, I actually really like the dialogue at the bottom of this page that plays out over the Wally panels. I realize that the metaverse is not passive. Like an organism fighting to survive, there are aspects of it I have underestimated, and innate hope that it fights back to the surface. That's kind of this is very meta almost. It's like people rejected this because it wasn't hopeful, because it was this trying to be edgy thing, and this is kind of him becoming self-aware. It's almost like he's actually representing Didio.
Yeah.
In a bizarre way. Although Heroes in Crisis tells me he's not learned that much, but I mean that's a whole other question, a whole other topic.
You'll get there in a minute, I'm sure.
Yes.
We'll get there. Yeah.
So yeah, again, the idea that the universe inherently wants to fight back and actually become what it's supposed to be is kind of encouraging in some way. But yeah, so the idea is turned against them, and that the heroes they're literally coming for him, and eventually Superman, and either he's going to destroy him or he's going to destroy the metaverse. One of the two. I assume it's going to be a third thing that he's not actually thinking of, because that's the obvious thing to do in a story.
Yeah.
But
I think what's interesting is we talk about how he always sees time, and and he is convinced he can't change anything, right? Because he's already seen it, so this is just how it happens. But that's clearly not true when he has changed the metaverse, right? He has actually altered this.
Yeah, but it's not like he's not said that since he's changed it, though, right?
What do you mean?
Like what you just said there, that was his belief beforehand.
No, but even afterwards, he talks about how he's a being of inaction because he's a being of inaction due to those beliefs, right? Of nothing I do matters. That's why he is like that.
But that in turn is his motivation for moving the lantern to see what happens.
He's a being of inaction, but he did make one action. But him saying he's a being of inaction.
Well, that's also, you need the context of what he's talking about on that last page, where he talks about what happened in Watchmen too.
Yeah.
He ends the Vietnam War, right? So by him ending the Vietnam War, that's an action. But then he follows that action up with a bunch of what seem like smaller inactions. Those smaller inactions lead to the death of that world.
Yeah, he's not literally saying he's never taken action.
No. What I meant though is he only seems to take action of things he has already seen the outcome of, right? So to him, in his mind, it's not taking action; it's just doing what's already been done.
No, I think this is him, and this is why I'm loving this book right now, right? To me, it's him going, I could do so much more, and that's what the new. And then he learns him doing so much more has a price, and in that he created the New 52, and by changing that world,
over. Yeah.
Well, by him doing that, though, it's what he thinks is going to lead to his undoing, because that's what the whole point about the metaverse in turn has, and is coming back for him, and that's what he thinks why he can't see past that time.
Yeah,
because the last thing he sees is Superman.
Yeah,
but we don't know that's what the actual case is. This is all just his point of view.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I forgot the point I was going to make. Matt talked too long. I forgot what I was going to say.
With the final thought from the quote from Socrates, that every
action has its pleasures and its price.
Right. So that's Newtonian law too. Every action has an equal yet opposite reaction.
Oh yeah.
That nothing you do doesn't come without a price.
It's also notable that the only action he's taken, seemingly since some point in Watchmen, this moving the lantern, this was not done to help anyone. This was not done for any kind of noble goal. It was not done for anything other than
personal curiosity.
Yeah, it was not done for any reason other than to test something for himself.
All right, so we're putting DDO in that role of Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that he did the New 52 just to see what would happen? He wanted chaos to reign so much. He's like, we're changing things. Like, we all know that's not true. It's fun to make the joke, but it was for sales. Like, it was their Hail Mary. It was happened to work for a short time.
Ultimately, the wrong choice, but I can understand why the thought of it came around. Why they went, oh yeah, let's do this. I mean, we know how it turned out in the end, but I can see why they thought of it.
Well, and you put that into the Manhattan story too with the things of Watchmen. Like, we know why he did all of these things and why he didn't take certain actions versus him actually doing something. And what led to him.
Yeah.
He's silencing me.
Yes. I think the idea it doesn't even help Carver Coleman, even though he's the closest thing he's got to a friend.
Yeah. Well, and he even says that too.
Yeah.
He could, and that the housekeeper burns the letter of his secret so that the murder never goes solved. But he knows he could basically watch it go down. But again, he's a man of inaction. So him moving that lantern means so much more because of what he did. And maybe is it because of moving that lantern, he chooses not to get involved because he sees like, well, if I change this one thing, what does this do now? You know, what is Carver Coleman's role in this universe? And maybe that's why he doesn't. We don't know yet. I'm sure by the end we'll know, you know, but as of right now, even Manhattan doesn't know. So,
doesn't know what.
But I just this whole because of the blackness, right? That's why he
doesn't know what's ultimately going to happen because he can't see into that.
Oh sure, no, but I thought he was talking about Carver Coleman as if.
But that's why there's that sense at the end here because we're seeing that this narration comes after he knows he can't see into the future.
Yeah.
That he realized he couldn't help Carver Coleman because what would have that changed?
Yeah, I get what Matt's saying.
This is all his hindsight now. You know,
he's saying because he changed the lantern and now he can't see anything. He doesn't know how any choices he makes would actually end up. He hasn't got that certainty that he's always had that his choices will, he knows exactly how they'll turn out. So if he did save Carver, he doesn't know how that would end up. He doesn't know what that would have in a long-term ripple effect. He doesn't know what would change.
I think one of the things we have to talk about here as well that we've kind of glossed over in a weird way is the idea that things change at all, because
without his influence, yeah.
Right. Why did Superman
no, with or without. Like, no, listen to what I'm saying here, because in Watchmen, things are kind of, not predetermined, but like, they just kind of happen. Like, Manhattan's so confused in this Earth because things change at all. The idea that for him there's this weird time flow where the world changes and reforms, and all of a sudden what was once this date in 1938 is now changed and it's something else. That was not something that happened in Watchmen ever. He never experienced that before. So to him, time...
It's almost
almost
as if...
He experienced it out of order, sure, but it was always still a straight line, right? In terms of like what was happening.
Almost as if Watchmen was cut off from the metaverse. Right?
Yes, as if it's not in the actual DC multiverse.
Right.
I think what's interesting is he talks early on about branching timelines in this book. He talks about alternate timelines, and he witnesses one. He kind of jumps between them essentially because you have that moment with the JSA where he sees the same moment twice with and without
that was
Superman.
Because that was post Superman, and that's what I think where Pete's getting to is why do things change in the metaverse? What's enacting those changes?
Yeah, because in his original world, he never saw changes. Things just happened like they were always going to happen.
You know why? It's Alan Moore. Alan Moore has done magic, and it's cut off the Watchmen universe.
And here though, like he's fascinated by these changes because I think it actually already puts in a wrench as to how he perceives time, because all of a sudden there's multiple versions of times, and like it means that there's technically like an order of how things are happening in the sense that
this begs the question: can he jump between alternate timelines, or is he experiencing them in a somewhat linear fashion?
I think it's in an order. I don't think he's jumping. I don't think he's willingly jumping between them.
Right. So that's what I'm asking. So this first time with the JSA where he sees the moment twice, right? So he experiences that first when Superman's there, and then it changes even from his perception, and he sees it.
Yeah.
And now he remembers the previous version, but anytime he goes back to this day, it's just this time.
Yes, that's the way to think about it. The idea is it probably happened later, but because of the way he can go back and forward and the way that he perceives time, he actually has this moment where he's back in 19, like it was like what 50 something, whatever it was, 1940 something.
6, I think.
And he has that moment where he sees this JSA meeting, then he sees a second version of it.
Yeah.
Now, you can read that two ways. One is that he's came back to this time again, and he's been here once, he's came back again after the changes happened, and so for him there's actually been time passing, but as we read it, it's just like back to back, right? Or two, this is just where he happens to be when the change occurs. Like this is the point in the timeline that he's experiencing when the ripple effect of the crisis or whatever. changes everything.
Yeah, so that's what I think it is. I think that it's the crisis. When that happens, the metaverse has those things that fix itself, right? So then it moves Superman. So now Superman isn't involved with the Justice Society. So that's why we get that secondary one. And like Pete just said, he's there as an observer. He's just sitting there because he's actually outside of the metaverse.
But to clarify,
I think it was the first thing you were saying, Pete.
Under no circumstance do I think he can jump back to one that's already happened.
No.
He can remember them, but he can't jump back to them.
That was so on those like two moments of the JSA. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're seeing one happen first because we see everything in this linear fashion. But he obviously sees this one first. He experienced it first with Superman, right? Then, if he went back to 38 again, like he can in his mind, he kind of travels, right? It's kind of time travel. It's kind of remembering. It's kind of a bit of both. When he goes back there, and it's just the new version now. Yeah, it's just okay. Superman isn't there. He's not able to access the version where Superman was there again. He can't jump between the timelines to see that and see the outcome of that world along that trajectory. It's just he has the memory of being there.
Yes. All right. So Kirby gets shot, and then we're basically at the end of the book. But this is where he says, "I've become the villain. This is a universe of hope." He's on a collision with the Man of Action, and Superman's eyes open. And that wraps up Doomsday Clock 10.
Oh yeah, and then we get the back matter too.
Yeah, the script
that fills in. Well, not just that.
The letter from the mother of what she had on him, which was kind of just, oh hey, I know the truth of where you came from. You've been lying to the press.
Well, that and that he was gay. On top of it was like a Rock Hudson situation.
Yeah,
and that's ultimately why he's so distressed there at the end, and why he starts drinking so heavily because he doesn't want this out. And you look at that in his history of why he was fired, right? Because he busted the studio head, on there and stuff. It really fills that in, and I just love this whole Nathaniel Dusk story too, and how it plays with what pop culture was back then versus what pop culture is now, and all about the pop or the post-war culture and them feeling broken. So that's why you had so many film noirs with these broken characters that were so popular, and now you put that into superheroes and all of that. Like it just, I'm really loving what Johns is doing. Like I know he used to catch a lot of flack for just being this guy that would reboot things and take ideas that weren't his and build on them. But here, I think he's really weaving this tapestry of what modern comics are.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, because this is building on Morrison's multiverse, for example. Yeah. But this is an entirely new concept above that with the metaverse.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, this show is great. I mean, this... just to get to quality here, I suppose. But, obviously, the art's fantastic.
I think after we've spoken for 45 minutes, and I don't think we've said a bad word about it, you can kind of just assume we thought it was great.
Yeah. Oh, man, that art there, just the film noir stuff going from black and white to the real world, and just the way that Frank draws Hedy Lamarr, too.
Yeah.
Like, it's so evocative of that time period.
Also, Gary Frank can't save that New 52 Superman suit. I still hated it when I saw it.
It's still bad. Yeah, it's still bad.
I still hated it.
Yeah. But I'm not holding that against him. It had to be there for the sake of the story.
And I think that's the point, though, is even Frank can't save that design because the New 52 ultimately was a big oopsie.
That should be the end of the book. Manhattan goes, you know what? I made an oopsie. I'll go fix it.
Yeah.
That's Matt's review of the entire New 52. The New 52, a big oopsie.
Yeah, I mean there were some bright spots. Don't get me wrong, but ultimately,
yeah. I think at the end of the book it is going to change things again. I don't think it's going to just put us into pre-New 52, but. No. I do expect JSA and Legion back. I do expect things to alter other ways maybe we can't predict yet.
Yeah, because don't forget that Imra's still around, and we still don't know her full story. Right, Saturn Girl.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Thunder's running around. I don't know if you guys noticed, but Johnny Thunder was working on the film set
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah,
he's the PA that gets fired for bringing the coffee that doesn't taste right. So, both of them showing up here like that, I think are going to have a big part in this going forward. So.
Yeah. But I do think we'll be in a new version of continuity at the end of Doomsday Clock.
Yep.
At least I hope we are.
Yep.
Unless Didio is determined to just ignore it and doesn't.
That's my concern. Is that this has gone on so long since John's kind of kicked off Rebirth now that maybe they've gone, you know what, we're not sticking to that plan anymore. We've got other ideas, and this is just we'll finish off the story, but it's not going to have the repercussions that it once had the plans to have.
And if that happens, we'll complain. But
yep.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why is it fine that we can have Manhattan's dong flapping around, but we couldn't have Batman's in Damned? And this isn't even like the Black Label mature line. This is just the regular book. It's just because it's blue.
Maybe. I mean, outside of the one panel, I think Frank does a pretty good job of trying to hide it.
He does it, but it's been there throughout the book, right?
Oh yeah. Kind of, I don't know. He asked an unanswerable question, I think.
I don't know. Prestige of where it comes from. I don't know. I don't really care, to be honest.
I just it popped into my head. I was like, why are they allowed in this book, but we couldn't in Batman?
I don't know. It's maybe the way that it was drawn. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
The one in Batman Damned was too muscular.
Well, I imagine given the art style from Damned, I imagine it was a lot more realistic and detailed looking as opposed to
probably
the blue dick in this.
Probably so veiny.
It'll be shaded. I'll have a proper look to it. All right. I mean, I guess that's Doomsday Clock issue 10. I mean, I guess to sum up, it takes all of DC history, it kind of says something about it, creates a new thing out of it, exemplifies the importance of Superman, but it also feels like it's all counting down to the big final showdown, whatever that may be. Mm-hmm. So, and all of those things, it excels. And honestly, given I'm actually pretty convinced at this point that the reason why the book has been delayed, at least the last couple times, has not been to do with art.
So what do you think it is then?
I think, and this is maybe hopeful thinking, but I think because of what the ramifications of it are going to be, and because they've had to push it back and rethink about what they're doing with the rest of the books in the line, I actually think they've spread out the final few issues more than they probably needed to be, just so that they're prepared for what it's going to do to everything else.
You think they're planning to, we need time to start all the rest of the books rather than just the time to finish this one?
Oh, man, if that's the case, that's more hopeful.
I mean, not so much to start other books, more just to, I mean, maybe there will be, I guess there will be new books,
but not even sell them up, but sort them out from, get everyone on the same page editorially, we're jumping forward at roughly the same time, we're all on the same page.
Yeah, all jumping forward in time at the very least, if not outright, like, there's some continuity changes for certain characters because of what's changed. And the reason why I was thinking this is because I saw someone point out online that Frank had been working on issue 10 and was maybe even nearly done it before issue 9 came out. And we've had delays to issue 10 after issue 9 came out.
It's true, because like I said, we've been seeing that page of the JSA for at least 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. So it seems like, there maybe has been some genuine delays, obviously. The fact that it went to every other month was obviously a genuine thing that needed to happen, but it feels like some of the recent delays where it was like, another week. It feels like this might be something else.
Mm-hmm. Maybe
it's not what I'm saying.
Not to get my hopes up. I'm still feeling quite cynical of post Doomsday Clock because Johns is very not involved, and feels like he has very little say in what happens after. So I'm kind of just cynical as to whether or not they'll follow up and do really do what it should be doing. I hope I'm wrong. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I hope Pete's right on this one.
I'm saying Didio's blonde. Didio's bald.
Yes.
Manhattan's bald.
Yes.
That's all I'm gonna.
That was your point, Matt. That's what you were getting to. All right, Matt, what are you rating out of 10?
I'm gonna give it the first ever 10.5. I think it goes that much. It goes that much past.
It's just a 10. There's no such thing as a 10.5.
10.5, people.
It's not. No, it's not counting. It's a 10.
I'm putting it in the books as a 10.5.
Connor.
I do agree that it has to be a 10, though. I mean, it's we've talked at length of all these things that it's done and it's excelled at. There's not been a single negative thing that we've said, and it managed to introduce something entirely new and exciting, and really lives with something really great to go forward with, no matter where the rest of the book goes.
Yeah, 10 from me too.
There's nothing off on that. Triple 10.
Triple 10. Well, I mean, might get a bit of whiplash here because from the hope of rebirth to the demise of rebirth with Heroes in Crisis, issue 9, Tom King writing, Clay Mann on the art.
Even before you do anything further, that introduction has just made me glad I didn't read the last couple of issues. Yeah, I feel justified in not having to feel the rage. Because I'm getting proxy rage already.
Do you know what the sad thing is that I don't even know what the point of the story was at the end of it. Because
that's my thing too. I said that to Porter after I read it. Is like I get the machinations there of King, and ultimately why he chose to tell the story. I don't know what the overall point of it all and why it needed to be 9 issues. This could have been 5, right?
If that could have been 3 issues.
And again, it's very noble of him to try to take up the cause of depression and PTSD and how it would affect these people. I just think that it was completely fumbled. The whole time.
Ultimately, all the final issue is explaining. The last issue explained how it happened, but this issue is just because we had Batgirl and Booster Gold and Blue Beetle and Harley all sort of team up to try and stop things or fix things, and ultimately all it is they show up and talk to Wally, the two Wallies before one of them has to die, and there's a really awkward joke at one point as well where Harley knees him in the nuts, and Wally, who's 5 days old, is like, oh yeah, I forgot that happened. That's going to sting that one. But ultimately, I just nothing about this. At the end of the book, I was this is actually baffling to me. We don't get a scene in this book where Barry reacts to this, where Barry is aware that what Wally's just done and what he's going through.
Yeah.
And nothing justifies it. Nothing comes out and So everyone's actually still dead except Ivy, who came back because she was in a flower.
Yeah. Well, Ivy, Wally's still alive because he gets taken away.
Oh yeah, no, Wally's still alive because of the whole time loop thing. He just had to finish the loop.
Sidesteps it.
Yeah.
Which, that's frustrating as hell.
Yeah. But Roy's still dead. Lagoon Boy's still dead. All those other characters who died are still dead.
So I came across a thread earlier in the week about how Roy might be Leviathan, and this only added to that evidence.
Sure.
Because out of everybody, he's the only character that got mourned throughout
because no one gave a shit about anyone else.
But even though, Connor, if you wanted to make this go, even in the Williamson issues of The Flash, it didn't seem like Barry, not The Flash, that he wrote for Batman, it didn't seem like Barry was that upset about anything that happened here, right?
Yeah.
So, there was no spillover except for Roy. Roy is still the only character that got mourned over different books.
Let me just double check. Wally is still a mass murderer.
Yes,
accidental mass murderer.
It's not so much murder as much as it's manslaughter. So,
okay, but he covered it up.
Yeah, no, he covered up. That's the worst. The worst thing he did is he covered it up. He tried to
and that's what
it's
Lois.
Not a great look, is it?
That's the evidence that Lois has, though.
Yeah, but this is the thing. The cover up was just to give him time so that he could send the stuff into Lois and
I'm so glad I've got popcorn.
It makes no sense. It's when I read Identity Crisis, everything added up at the end. And you might not like the stuff that happened throughout, or it might be controversial. But at the end of the day, the whole point of that was how these secret identities protect but also can hurt the heroes, right? Their personal life and their work life crossing over. And here, I feel the moral of the story is don't cover up a mass murder if you have PTSD. Because at the end, I don't feel that Wally's that changed. Because I feel like the Wally that comes from 5 days has shook off the PTSD, which he can't do. Because we had 8 issues basically summing that up. And he's just like, oh yeah, you know, you'll get better, man. You know how I know? I'm you from the future, and we're better. And I feel like that undermines everything of the last 8 issues. So...
everything in here... Again, I am baffled that the Justice League never actually show up. We never get to see Barry react to this confession or anything.
What about all their investigation, though?
Right.
Oh yeah, they're not in this book. They're not in this issue.
But that was like a whole big thing at the start, is them investigating it and figuring it out, and it was because murder mystery. But
once they realized that it wasn't Harley or Booster, I feel like King. I don't feel like King ever wanted to tell a detective story.
Then why did he set it up as a murder mystery?
I'm getting there. Calm down. Cool your jets, person who hasn't read the last 3 issues. All right. But I feel like he put it on there as a red herring, because ultimately this was to tell a story of trauma and PTSD and how that affects that. But it all just got muddled. Like it all just became a goop. You know.
I mean,
and it gets lost in there.
It's character assassination. This entire book just ruins Wally West, because it takes him and now he's not Wally anymore. He's not the Wally we know or like, or anything we like about Wally. He's not there.
You remember at the beginning you said that this is all going to get bulldozed over? I have the feeling that Doomsday Clock's going to do that.
I really hope it does. I hope at the end of Doomsday Clock fixes this shit.
I don't think that Johns would put in there that the metaverse has actions of trying to fix itself, and we see Wally pop up in Doomsday Clock, and then this comes out. I feel like the metaverse is going to fix itself, and this is going to get buried.
To lend some potential credence to this, they told us that Heroes in Crisis was delayed to this week due to revelations in Doomsday Clock or something, right? It was because they were linked. It was due to events in one of them.
But it's not.
There was no clear event linkage, parallels, anything beyond the metaverse and the concept of things changing, wanting to get back to how things are supposed to be.
Yeah, they lied. I can't find it. If it's there, someone has to explain it to me. Unless it's
I don't think it's that they lied. I think it's that they're just. It's a very. Who's making noise? Connor.
Did you know I've got food?
It's not me.
Move the popcorn somewhere where the noise doesn't get picked up there. Jesus Christ. So unprofessional.
Says you.
Yeah. Unprofessional.
You don't hear me when I'm eating. I'm very smart.
You open cans in the middle of sentences all the time.
That's intentional for a joke, you tit.
Okay, anyways, Heroes in Crisis. You don't think they lied? No, what do you think it is?
Well, I don't think it's that they lied. I think it's just that their definition of linkage is a very, very thin.
It's like when you walk into a spider web and now you're linked to the wall. You peel it off and you throw it on the ground. Like, I don't know. I kept that in mind when I read this, and I kept waiting for the Doomsday Clock tie, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, no, because I said this, that there wasn't going to be an actual tie-in. I didn't think there was going to be. I would have been shocked if there was.
Not even a tie-in, but like a reference of some kind that, to the future, and there's nothing there. Like, there's no. I figured it would have to do with Booster, like, because he's a time traveler.
That they would need if they're, because they outright said, "Oh, we moved it because of things in Doomsday Clock."
Mm-hmm.
I assumed that not necessarily it's not going to tie in, but it's going to reference something that happened in Doomsday.
Yeah.
But that's all. Just a reference, a throwaway line. They didn't want to spoil it.
The connection is purely thematic. It's purely the idea of the fact that Wally shows up. It's kind of the Wally start and end of Wally's story, I guess, but also just the idea of the.
There is no need for this to be on the same week. No, there was no like if they needed to delay it because it wasn't ready.
It's not fine. A need by any means, but that's why they wanted to push it to this week.
Here's the thing: the reason they wanted to push it is so they had more content on a week 5.
That's what I think.
Which is fine. Just say, do you know what? It's we would need it on that week. Solicit it for that week in the first place. Don't come up with some convoluted bullshit. Just
I'm not saying I agree with them. I'm just trying to justify their explanation.
No, their explanation was bullshit, and they know it.
I don't really feel strongly about it because it's whatever. Like, they do this to comics all the time. To me, this is the exact same as like every second cover being misrepresentative of what's in the book. I'm just used to this bullshit by now.
No, but I don't like them saying that it ties with Doomsday Clock and vice versa, and that's why they have to be released the same day. And normally when something like that happens, I'll tell you read this one first, and there was none of that.
Well, for the record, they never said it ties in. They never used that word.
I need to go back and see the solicit.
No, it wasn't solicit.
No,
it wasn't solicit. It was a news article like a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Oh.
It simply said because of events in Doomsday Clock.
Right.
Yeah, that's all they said. I don't even know if they said they need to do it. It was just because of events in Doomsday Clock. Heroes in Crisis has been pushed back to the same week.
Yeah.
I don't think it need to be 9 issues. This is a theme with Tom King, and outside of Mr. Miracle, I feel like he spins his wheels a lot. And say what you will about Bendis and all his word bubbles and whatnot. At least with the story, I don't feel like his story spins the wheels, right? Like, there's a lot of content there. And the same with Tom King, but I feel like there's a lot more filler when it comes to King. And I love the guy, don't get me wrong.
It's funny because earlier Pete said this could have been like 3 issues.
Yeah.
And all the people who hate decompressed storytelling really hate Bendis for that. I'm like, wow. Yeah. King's just as guilty in that regard for sure.
So you know how they do the panels with the different heroes, and that was probably the brightest spot in this one with me is we got to see all the Robins, like all of them. They even include Spoiler in there.
Oh.
And
yeah, I hear that there was a lot of those interviews in this.
Yeah, there's a lot more. So it makes it seem like Sanctuary is still around, like it's still there for therapy for superheroes, which that's cool. Like make Sanctuary a thing.
Well, ultimately, there was nothing wrong with Sanctuary, right?
No.
That was some of the theory at the start. Or was it
why do you?
Was it all the robots? Did Sanctuary go rogue somehow? That was a lot of theory at the start.
Hold on. Why do you think this implies Sanctuary's still around after this?
Because a lot of the heroes that are there, it feels like it's very contemporary. It feels like it's. I just feel like.
I've had
the concept of Sanctuary is so fine.
I've had the impression the whole time through the entire book that every single interview we've seen is set before the events of the murders.
See, I thought that too, and then this one, there's just certain parts of the interviews I feel that are just
out of interest. Is there any reason why Sanctuary couldn't still be around?
No.
I guess not. I don't really ever want to see it again, but.
No, and we don't have to, but I like the idea that it's there, and like if they were to do a story where somebody needs a break, it's like, well, I'm going to Sanctuary for a month or two, like, I don't know, like Tim.
I feel like
Tim Drake would go to Sanctuary more than often than that because I just feel like his mental health is important to him.
I feel it's just the thing. I still so much that the concept of Sanctuary is wrong, but I feel like after there's been a mass murder like this, which was again accidental, like the amount of powered people that are going there.
I feel that all comes out to at least the superhero community.
Yeah, but
the general public.
Would the Trinity feel comfortable sending people back here after this event?
Because ultimately it wasn't on them. Ultimately it was that they didn't know how to deal with Wally, right? Because Wally wasn't being 100% honest there.
I would say yes. Again, having not read the last few issues, but I would say they would still feel comfortable because Yeah, okay. It failed one person. It failed Wally.
Right.
And that failure failed everyone else who was there.
Well,
right,
no,
no,
but
no.
that's
Okay,
like...
no, but here's the thing. No, it's undeniable that it failed Wally and it led to a terrible accident.
Right.
But they've shown how many, all these interviews, all these people who have been to Sanctuary and come out better for it. They might still look at this and go, no, we still need Sanctuary. This is still a net positive thing.
Answer me this. Do either of you ever want to see it again?
Yes, I wouldn't mind seeing it under certain circumstances. I don't want a whole mini-series. I don't want like the Sanctuary Files and we get deep into the head. But if like a superhero, let's say Ted Cord, right, having a hard time dealing, and him and Booster have a book. This is whatever, and he's like, "Hey, Booster, I'm going away for a month. I'm gonna go to Sanctuary because I need to fix some things," and that's fine. I don't need to see him like go back there. Maybe an issue of him dealing with whatever his issues are. I think it's a good concept.
No, I agree with that. I remember even when back when this was announced, we were like, "Oh, this is a cool idea of a place," and I don't think the story has ruined the place itself.
And but I don't need like action sequences in Sanctuary.
Yeah, I don't need stuff set
there.
It's
not so much that I think the concept is bad, because I like the concept well enough when they first brought it up, back before we even knew what the book was called. It was just Sanctuary things coming.
Yeah. Or even Ivy and Harley going to Sanctuary to work on their relationship. Like that would be something
like a book like Harley Quinn. I know you guys aren't a fan of that book.
No, but
that doing an issue of Harley going to Sanctuary and her spending a week in Sanctuary as an issue, I think that could be a fantastic issue.
Yeah, but no, and I think you just drop some of like the mask concepts and whatnot that I feel where those were just introduced to make it seem a little bit more sinister,
to make it seem more like a murder mystery.
Yeah, right. I just think that ultimately while the story was flawed, I think the concept is solid, and I wouldn't mind it being a thing.
I would think that they'll still keep it around. Maybe they the Trinity go away and improve upon it. They're like, no, we can do better. But I think the core idea, I think they'll still be into and want to have as a resource for the community.
This is the case. I mean, maybe in time I'll be feel better about it. But right now,
you're still raw.
But right now, this is tainted. I don't give a shit. I don't want to see Sanctuary ever again. Right now, I hate the fucking place.
Okay, this is kind of like a rehab facility, right? Okay, someone goes and voluntarily checks themselves into a rehab facility. Hundreds of people are there every year. At one point, one guy brings in a knife. Somehow he smuggles it in and he kills 3 people there. Do you say, right, we're never sending anyone to there again? Or do you go, well, hang on, no, we'll do better, we'll take more precautions,
we need to fix it.
but we're going to we're not going to shut the whole place down, are we?
Yeah.
I mean, you're comparing someone with a knife to someone who has a Speed Force bomb powers that just kills everyone instantly.
Well, now you're turning this into the Superhuman Registration Act, Pete. And it sounds like to me like you're pro Iron Man. Like me and Connor over here being like, nah, Cap, we're Team Cap over here. I'm
saying that the guilt of what happened to everyone there would weigh on the hero characters a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
I don't disagree, but I also don't see them just shutting the doors and denying people help when there's a system in there that just maybe needs to be thought about a little bit differently. Instead of throwing all the Kryptonian tech in there and letting them deal with it.
Because I want to specify, literally everyone there, except the 2 who were left as the suspects, were killed. Like everyone. This was like an entire building full of people were killed.
Yeah. So this is what I mean. They changed the way they do things. I think this conversation is way better than anything that happened in the book. So at least the stuff that happened has led to us talking about it here. Because I could see like a Metropolis Sanctuary, a Gotham Sanctuary, where they're compartmentalized.
Maybe it's just a case of no, there needs to be people there to talk to them as people, not just leave it to the robots.
Right.
Maybe it's as simple as that. Maybe that's the lesson they need to take away, but still have this concept.
Here's the thing, though. I don't want to see any of this. I don't want them to answer this. I don't want to see it again. I want them to forget this concept ever existed, and I want this to be retconned to shit.
I definitely don't. No.
Doomsday Clock, the end of it, I want all this to be retconned. Because I don't want a Wally who remembers doing this. I don't want a Wally who remembers going through this.
Okay, no. You can get rid of the Wally side of it and still have Sanctuary exist. as a place, as a concept, and still continue. But just okay, the stuff with Wally didn't happen. I'm okay with that.
I mean, sure, whatever. I don't really care though. Like, I don't. Why do you still want it to be there? Like,
I really like it as a concept, as a place for as a part of the mythology of the superhero community. I like it in that regard.
It's just too tainted for me. It's just at this point, it's just like I don't know.
Yeah, you were saying you were talking about blood over anger, Connor, and it's not anger as much as disappointment that this is where we chose to go. And as a big Wally fan, it sucks. That's what they chose to do, and it feels like an edict from above.
Here's my other problem with the story,
and that sucks.
I don't think there's actually that much of a story in Heroes in Crisis. It's basically the entire book, in a sense, is just exposition of how the thing at the start happened, and that's it. There's no actual like pivot. There's no like threat in the third act. There's nothing like that. It gets to the end and it's like, oh, this is just how it was always going to end. Because this is the thing, is that there was always going to be one Wally left alive. Because when we talk about the loop happening, the younger one is always left alive to continue. Like that was not a new event that happens at the end of the issue. The younger one was always going to be living at the end of the book. Because the loop just is forever, right? It always happens. That one does the thing, goes back in time 5 days, goes through, gets confronted with everyone.
Because they don't want to change. So yeah, Connor, that's what happens is they don't want to change things because Booster knows when you change things, it causes problems.
Yeah.
Right. So we can't affect the time stream.
Yeah. So it's a loop that just has to happen. Yeah. Right. But the younger Wally is always going to continue on, so there's no actual there's no, like, they don't affect it. This is my big problem. They spend so much time building up this team of Batgirl, Harley, Booster, and Beetle, and they don't affect a goddamn thing. Not really. I mean, sure, they were always going to show up and maybe have the conversation they do, but ultimately they never really figure anything solid out or really achieve anything. The other characters investigate never really. The only thing of interest me really was the idea that Wally was going to leak, like, the fact that this place exists to the public. But even that doesn't really get followed up upon that much beyond Superman has a speech.
I just want it on the record. I did not defend any element of this story whatsoever.
Yeah,
just the concept of Sanctuary.
Yeah, and that's where I am too. Like, I like that as a concept. So if it gets retconned and that we get rid of Wally doing all this, but still Sanctuary as a concept, I think is fine. I don't think we needed a whole miniseries. I think calling it a crisis was a huge overreach of that term.
Especially when either Metal or Doomsday Clock could have conceivably been a crisis. Yeah. And this is the crisis we got.
And then again, you can play up, though, to play devil's advocate here, that this is not a crisis in that term. It's an actual personal crisis. Actual, definition of it. But, yeah, I mean, there are stuff that I do like in here. I like all of the hero personals here that we see, and like we get characters that we haven't seen yet, and some of the stuff really struck home. Like you see Jessica Cruz talking about how even though she's gotten better, she still likes to go up to the stars and be alone, and that's just always going to be with her. Or you have all the Robins talking about, who am I, Dick's this and Tim's that, and they're all talking about each other, and each one of them, they feel like they don't have an identity. And then you get to Damian, and Damian's like, they all said that? What did they say about me? Whereas he doesn't feel like he actually has an issue or this problem of what he represents as Robin.
I think it's more just, Damian's not old enough yet to be aware of the problem. He's still in that, youthful arrogance.
Right. And then you get to Stephanie Brown in her spoiler costume. It's like, I bet you they didn't even mention me as Robin. They always forget. So there's these little things here that I like seeing, these other sides of the heroes that get lost. Kind of what King sold, at least me, on, of, why they need this type of place. What type, the job they chose puts this huge burden on them, and they need somewhere to go talk about it. So I still like all of that. But all the stuff to do with Wally and Booster, which that pisses me off, because you have Wally, Booster, and Ivy, 3 of my favorite DC characters, involved in the story that ultimately goes nowhere.
There's barely a story, and honestly, the confessionals, like, they're hit and miss. Like, I think some of them feel like they're just like hitting a really obvious point home. Some of them it feels like You know, because all the ones in this book are all one panel. It's just like each 9-grid page is just one panel per character of just all these different things.
Oh, instead of the 9, one character per
page.
It's
going through tons of characters, and some of them are just like, yeah, okay, so you at the very least looked up a wiki page of who this character is, so you could write this panel, and that's about it.
Well, no, but there's even stuff like with Dr. Light, where she says even everything that's happened, everything he did, and I still choose to go by this name. Like, there's stuff in there that
Here's the thing, Matt. Here's the thing. These confessionals are almost completely pointless and add nothing to the actual story, or the what's supposed to be the main story of the book.
I disagree, and that's why I feel like these, when they go through them, is showing that there's more success to Sanctuary than there was not.
Honestly, after this final issue, they feel like padding to me. I don't think there should be anything in this final issue. Yeah, I mean, you've probably cut 2 issues of the book just by taking out all the confessional pages. Quite
I
easily.
said that a while ago when I was still reading it, because it was originally 7 issues at the when it was originally solicited, and obviously it got bumped up. And,
and then we had that one where they brought in Garrett's to do the art, right? And that felt like a filler. That almost felt like Heroes in Crisis Annual, so yeah. I'm just saying, like, I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it. Like, I'm not gonna buy the collected edition. I'll tell you that much. So yeah.
I can't believe how little actually happened in this book. Like, I know there's this issue that, like, the whole 9 issues. I can't believe how little actually happened, in terms of progression, in terms of like choices being made, in terms of any of these things. And I like decompressed stories. I really do. My problem here isn't decompression. My problem is that, like, Bendis is very decompressed, and I like Bendis' decompression because I feel like it leaves me on, it focuses on a specific, period per issue. It leaves me on a cliffhanger, but I feel like by the end of every issue, a significant thing has happened to move the story forward. Every single time, I feel that way. With this book, I feel like out of the 9 issues, I got very little of that. Where
I think it was maybe like issue 6, maybe, where we had the one chunk of, it's starting to move forward now, and then that was where we first got the reveal of, actually Wally's involved. That was the first time in the story where it felt like it was moving forward, and it was still not a huge leap, right? It wasn't like it didn't really set on a huge path forward either, but it was the first moment where when reading it we went, it actually feels like we moved.
And the final like page of this is just Wally being kind of moody again and thinking of his family and how they're not here, and I'm like,
so nothing's changed.
We've made this point repeatedly. I don't. Like, I get nothing from this final page. Absolutely nothing from it.
Well, I get that it's always going to be with him, no matter what he does. Like, it's just not an off and on switch. Like, even if you talk about your problems and you go through all this therapy, it's still going to be with you. And that's what I feel that's what that represents. Like, yeah, he might be better where he doesn't want to self-harm, but it's still going to be with him because he misses his family. So
I know I've seen some people who have been through PTSD and other things and say that they really like this story because it's really realistic and representative. I get that, but it's not really a story.
Yeah, it's not really a story. But on top of that, I think the maybe problem number one is I don't think anyone wanted a PTSD story about Wally West. No one wanted this.
I did when they announced it, and that's what it was going to be. I just don't like the execution of it. I still think it's a fine idea. Because as of right now,
the idea of Wally has been through that multiversal changing events, and he feels lost, and there are repercussions to that. I'm down for that story in theory.
Let me rephrase what I said there, because I'm fine with the using the idea of he misses his wife and kids, but like actually build a story out of it, like have him like trying to search for how he can somehow get back to them, even if they're going to be failures, even if it ends in a sad way where it doesn't work, do something with it.
That's not what he chose to do.
Or just make Wally sound like freaking Wally. Wally in this book does not sound like Wally West at all.
Again, I'm not defending the book's choices. I'm not defending the writing. I'm saying I would like a story about Wally West and PTSD. I'm okay with that. Just
exactly. So it's just, again, the execution was way, way off. And there are ways to do it, but at the same time, I can look and see where King's justified in this, and this is Wally at his lowest. This is him essentially committing suicide, and his friends are able to intervene. Right at the end here.
Well, let me rephrase then, since we're picking apart my PTSD comments so much. But do you want a story where Wally West basically wants to commit suicide because of what's happened with Flashpoint?
I think there's a way to do it. I really do. I just don't feel this was it.
That story of him having those thoughts and dealing with that. Yeah, I do want that story. I just want a good story of it.
Yeah. Because the whole idea of Wally West was he was always the most relatable of these generation of characters.
This story feels so tone deaf to me. That's what it feels like. It feels like they just don't understand what anyone wants from the character or what anyone wants from a story to do with any of these characters. It just like this is what's so baffling to me about compared to Mr. Miracle is that Mr. Miracle takes this character, tells this really touching story about about depression, fatherhood. Right, and fatherhood and whatever. Like it does it in such a way where like, you really get inside the character's head, but it feels right. And I think with Wally though, we have these more like set pre ideas of who Wally is and what he represents. And well, on paper, yeah, it sounds fine to say, okay, he represents hope and he feels all this pressure because of that. And I'm not saying that you can't do a story where that gets to him, but this story goes to such a goddamn deep end of the ocean. He goes to this place where he can never recover from this. The only way you fix Wally West now is to retcon this.
I suspect, you're saying how he can't recover from this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect that's the point. I suspect that is the point of, okay, no, PTSD, you don't just recover. You don't just get better. It's always there. I think that is supposed to be the point of this story. It's just...
These are his choices, and you can hate them as a Wally fan, but through this, he has to live with these choices. He decided to cover it up. Like, you know what I mean?
But that's what people don't like is like, yeah, it's Wally's choices, but a writer made those choices for him, and they feel like we can never have Wally that we want back again. When the whole point of Rebirth is that he represented getting back things we missed.
Because I said that with Superman, right? And it wasn't the same, but we had Reborn come through.
Yeah, they had to retcon it. They had to change continuity.
But that's the thing. But that stuff still happened. Those books still are there. Like, the only way this completely gets undone is to, like, stop printing it and whatnot. So, like, even if they retcon it, it'll still be there. You know what I mean? Like...
No, retcon. I don't care if it's still. It could be on the shelf. It could be on a strip out hardcover, which I will never look at. I will never look at it. But just retcon out of continuity and give me Wally West back. Give me actual Wally West.
I don't know. I'm not making that big of a stink over it. I didn't like the execution of it, but like.
This was garbage.
Matt, you know how you said it wasn't
garbage.
Blood rage, it was disappointment.
Yeah.
Pete's showing you up. He's bringing the rage.
Yeah, and that's fine.
No, like this was garbage. Like I tried to be positive at the start of the story because I hoped it would go somewhere. I'm okay with decompression, but you get to issue 7, 8, 9, and it's like what? Like 8 and 9 were terrible. Issues 8 and 9 of Heroes in Crisis are easily the 2 issues of comics that I've hated the most this year. Easily. This was character assassination.
I'm not bringing up anything else. I want to get on to Leviathan and get on with my day. So.
This was garbage, but what are you rating this?
It's a 4.
2 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'll split the middle and give it a 3.
Shut up!
You have 3 issues left.
I hate it. I hate it start to finish. All this devil's advocate bullshit. I'm surprised.
I didn't even read it.
Must not get more rage. I think how they handled this story is exactly why no one should be asking for this type of story from DC, because they clearly can't be trusted with it.
I think that's a terrible thing to lump in, though. They screwed it up, so we shouldn't ever do it again. That I don't want, because I do want this kind of story. I want them to diversify, do serious stories, and tackle serious topics. I want it done better than this, but I don't want them to never ever try again.
Oh no, I still want serious topics. I still want them to have weight to what they're doing in terms of characters, but there's having weight and still actually adhering to who the character is. This book doesn't have to be about Wally. It doesn't matter who Wally is in this book. Right? And there was actually some rumours that King was told that he was using Wally. That he just had the basic idea of what the story was, and he was told that Wally's the character he's using, right? And I can believe that reading this, because the fact that it's Wally is irrelevant almost. Because, sure, yeah, they put in that it's his wife and kids missing that are the cause for it, sure. That's what they've plugged into the story.
All the time travel with Speed Force and,
Sure. But, like, it ultimately doesn't really matter that it's Wally. Like you could swap out characters easily in this.
Yeah, I am glad that they tried, because I'd much rather have a mess like this, where they tried, than what's going on with Dick Grayson. Where
I mean, that's garbage too. That's not.
I still don't understand. But see, I understand where King was coming from here. I don't understand what happened with editorial that led King having Dick Grayson shot and his personality changed. Like, I don't get that. At least I understand here, what led to all this mess. So
I genuinely feel better in my life having not read this. I feel like I made the right decision, and not having gone through reading these last few issues and experiencing the rage. Truly, I'm reading about it and I'm like, yeah, okay, I get why we're wrong. I'm kind of annoyed because Wally's ruined.
Yeah, I'm more annoyed by it than rageful.
I haven't got the passion that I know I would have had if I'd read it, because I know how I felt. Yeah, I mean,
you summed it up.
Issues.
You summed it up. They ruined Wally. That's all you need to say about this book. That's all this book is they ruined Wally West, and that's it. Yeah. That's all that happened in this book, is that Wally West got ruined, and that's it. It doesn't feel earned. Like it'd be one thing if something happened in the book to provoke it, if there was like a build up to it, but there's no build up to it. Like we just went from how he was in the Flash the last time we saw him. Okay, he needs to go to Sanctuary. Sure, he's not feeling great. Yes, to he's at the point where he's ready to explode with Speed Force and kill everyone, and then cover it up. Like,
so hang on, I've got a question. It's just a slight plot question.
Mm-hmm.
Does he explode with Speed Force because of his feelings of like keeping them all inside and not dealing with them?
It's a panic attack. Yeah, he has a panic attack. Okay. And the people are collateral damage. And his crime is not that
no, it's him covering them up. No, I get that. I just wanted to understand why he exploded with Speed Force. It was the panic attack. That's fine. That was all I wanted to know. I haven't seen Pete this angry in a while.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take us on then. Finally. To Superman Leviathan Rising Special Issue 1 by lots of people. I didn't write them down because there was like 4 writers and 4 artists.
Well, you got Bendis and
Rucka and Fraction and Draco.
Right, and then the art. I was trying to get Bendis's artist.
It's Paquette, Perkins, Lever, Pansica, and Ferreira.
Yeah.
Right, exciting stuff. All right, Matt, be positive as something. What did you think of Superman?
Oh, no, I love this book. I like what's going on in Superman right now, and I like the fact that we finally get Talia and Leviathan and what that means, and the fact that how do you get to Superman is you go after the press, but not Lois, because if you go after Lois, that's going to cause problems. You go after Clark Kent, and I just love the whole idea that they got Superman, but they didn't realize they got Superman, or did they? You know what I mean? Like, it led to this. Does Leviathan know what they were doing?
Yeah, Leviathan. Leviathan might know.
Yeah.
Talia didn't for sure. So we have like this bookend thing where Bendis is at the start and the end of the book, and it's the story of oh god, what's her name? I've not learned her name yet. Leon.
Yeah.
Leon.
The Invisible.
Yeah, the Invisible Mafia leader, Leon.
Yeah.
Where she essentially is cornered in an art gallery by Leviathan, whoever's running Leviathan, but he's got like face changing tech on. But it's not just
that was Spiral to me, like what I mean, like, but it's not, you can see it changing.
Yeah, it's not exactly what Spiral had though. It's like you can actually see it changing to different like faces every so often. So there's always like a face you can see, but it's like it's flipping through them every minute or whatever.
Yeah, and I like that because it completely, even if she thought she knew what was going on, the fact that it keeps changing. I like that Leviathan goes up to her and is like, "Hey, I like what you're doing. This whole secret thing. I can work with that." You know?
Hey, for a minute before when it was on the first page and it was like this mysterious person walking up with. I thought it was Lex at first. I thought the idea that Lex had discovered there was this organization who was operating under Superman without him ever even been aware of it. It was appealing to him. But it's Leviathan, and they're like, hey, you must have done research on how to get rid of him for good, right? Like, it's like, well, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily think that's the best idea, but if you were going to do it, like you say, Matt, you go after like a weakness, and not Lois, because I loved it later on when it suggested about Lois. It's like, how many people have tried that? How many people have been after Lois Lane and it's never worked? It's never ended up in the right way. So
it makes it worse for you if you go after Lois.
And then the other thing is, like, people who try to kill Superman have this obsession with like basking in it and telling him about what the plan was and how it works. Like, no, just kill him right away. If you know how you can kill Superman, just do it and do it immediately. Like, so no, I like the kind of the almost meta like the things that people say is, oh well, just do this, you know, anything everyone ever says about why villains monologue or what villains do because of their ego. This is saying, no, if you want to succeed in this, you just do it. And that's really good.
So good.
And Clark, you know, senses, because he's going to visit Lois, who's in a hotel in Chicago. And he's like, hey, there's people in our apartment. There's like soldiers and like night vision gear, and they're there for someone. It's like, are they there for me? He's like, no, maybe they're there for me. Like, they're looking for Clark Kent.
Yeah, because if they're there for Superman, it'd be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Like, you know, just this is them. So he basically goes and gives himself up for the story.
Yes, as Lois jokes, she's done many a time. She's gotten herself captured for a story.
But then it turns because Leviathan shows up and straps him with a kryptonite like vest.
Yeah.
Which was there as I read it was to prevent Superman, right, from doing anything with Clark.
Yeah. So they don't know he's Superman. They're expect, but this is like if Superman shows up, like this is the trap or part of the trap.
So now he's like, damn it, I got myself into trouble. Except there's no Superman coming to save me, like with Lois, you know.
Yeah.
So I liked all that inner monologue kind of stuff.
Yeah, and actually it shifts to Rucka's part of it quite seamlessly. I mean, it's noticeable because of the art change, but like the actual story flow is just like, okay, she's like, hey, Superman, like, I know you can hear maybe that hearing. I wouldn't mind if you came and tucked me into bed, if you know what I mean. And then no response on the phone, nothing happens. And then she starts to get paranoid about, okay, you know, he's just saving a cat in a tree. Like, he'll be here.
He'll be fine.
Yeah.
He does this.
Yeah.
You know, that's not like him.
She calls Batman first, and then Wonder Woman, and basically is like, I think something's wrong, and I think he needs help. And they kind of accept that if there's one person on Earth who knows that he needs help, it'll be her. And they start looking into it, and she's kind of like there on her own. And obviously, when we get to the bookend, the back chunk of the issue, like Clark does get out because Talia lets him go. Because Talia's not running Leviathan anymore. That's the big thing we learn in this issue, is that this mysterious Leviathan character, the leader, has usurped her, and actually throws her out of their fancy flying device. Whatever, it's not a blimp, but it's something.
Their base. Flying base, and Superman comes in, makes a save. I also love because then we get to the Jimmy story, but I like here that you hear the phone call first in the Lois story, and Jimmy's like, I need $10,000 and all this stuff. And then we're like, what the hell is Jimmy doing? And then we get to the Fraction Jimmy story, and it's basically everything I want from a Jimmy story. Like, as great as the Rucka story was, it was kind of expected. Like, it's going to be Lois. It's going to be a little bit darker thematically. Yeah. Almost, feels like almost like a crime story.
I definitely like the Lois one more than the Jimmy one.
No. I mean,
I like them about equal. I had higher expectations that were met for Rucka versus the Fraction one.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I didn't know what to expect.
Don't get me wrong.
I ended up liking it.
I did like the cats in the story with Jimmy, and I went, is this Dexter? This feels like Dexter when she starts picking up red.
Yep.
And then later on, when Jimmy and Lois and who was with them at the end? I can't remember. But when they show up to like save Clark, essentially, Jimmy's got like this outfit on. He's got this bear outfit.
It's like a gorilla suit.
Sorry, yeah, because they're in Gorilla City in his story.
Yep.
And he's got Dexter, who's in his Red Lantern costume on his shoulder. So Jimmy's got Dexter as a pet now somehow.
And your Rage Cat, he says at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Don't get me wrong, I am excited for Jimmy's comic having Dexter as a supporting character. Don't get me wrong.
Yes. Also, I wanted to bring up real quick before we talk about the Jimmy story in detail.
Yeah.
Bendis flashes over to the Mongol fight that we saw in Naomi again, which I thought, that's pretty cool. You see the Port Oswego clear in the back. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Let me get to what he says. There's the Talia stuff. But yeah, the Jimmy, just the amount of cringe in that Jimmy issue, just it kills me.
Oh yeah,
but,
Jimmy's accidentally got married to someone.
Yeah.
In Gorilla City, who apparently have like drive-through weddings like Vegas.
Yep. Of course they do.
Yeah,
of course they do. And she's basically this like. She steals, but in terms of, but not just as a thief, but to return like heirlooms and shit back to the rightful like family lines or whatever.
Her own dimension, like her own
dimension.
They're all stolen from her family, like hundreds of thousands years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was Firestorm that shows up with Dexter, Gorilla Suit Jimmy,
that's Firestorm.
And Lois. Right. Is that that's Talia, right? Who shows up? It's Lois, right?
Yeah, it was Lois at the end. Yeah.
But she's dressed like Talia.
I assumed that was because she was infiltrating, or like it was a disguise or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I mean, why is Jimmy
wearing
for
a second without reading it?
Yeah. Why is Jimmy wearing a gorilla suit, for example? like.
Well, find out.
Yeah.
I'm sure. But,
Yeah. So do you think Jimmy and Lois's books are going to be set during like this? Like, there's actually a much longer time where Clark was missing, and that's where those two books are going to be set, or do you think they're just going to be ongoing? Like,
no, I think it'll be ongoing. I think we'll get a little bit of what they were doing, just because, or But yeah, I love when Dexter throws up on him, and it's way over the top, like it's very cartoony.
Oh, it's Evil Dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
My like impression on this is very different, given that I didn't read the Bendis bulk of it or the Supergirl section, right? So like I liked the lowest bit one. I really liked the tone and the style.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, this is clearly following on from the Bendis story bit. I don't really care what's going on yet. So I'm hoping that when it gets to her own book, it's still like, okay, she's, investigating something. It's this tone, just not this mystery, right? Just set it up as its own mystery. It doesn't need to be tied into the larger thing. Just Lois doing a mystery is kind of what I want.
Doesn't need to be, but it might very well be.
It might well be. And it's the same with Jimmy. I like this. It feels like an extension. The book we had with Bizarro on the road trip. It's its own thing. It's doing something separate. That's what I want from both these books. I just want side books that feel completely different.
But see, I feel like they'll have, not that they'll tie in, but whatever's going on in Bendis' book will be referenced some way, even if it's just slightly.
Sure. But I just want them to be enough.
Like it's part of a larger line.
What I'd like is at the end of it to be able to just buy, like 2 hardcovers that I can give to people who, oh, you want a Lois story? Here, read Lois by Rucka.
I think it will be, because Rucka kind of specializes in that kind of thing. Yeah. Look at his Wonder Woman, which we all know how much I loved.
And the Jimmy thing is so over the top and zany and stylistic that I just want that.
Almost whiplash inducing, because even Lieber's art is very cartoon strippy. Like it's so it snaps out of that super dark Lois art that's very film noir, almost Sean Phillips-esque in that gritty crime style, and then over here to and we even get a hint to the adventure that Jimmy and Superman went to the Fifth Dimension cartoon world.
Yeah,
Fifth Dimension funnies. So.
Just for the record, Perkins on that Lois story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think his art suits this type of story way better than he did on that little stint he had on Green Lanterns, which I liked him on Green Lanterns, but it's just much more at home.
I like Perkins' art a lot, actually. I think it fits quite well.
Yeah.
Does good with the dark shadows and that kind of thing.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Which is what we praised on Green Lanterns as well. It's just tonally way more appropriate here.
So I'm expecting this character, has Jimmy's wife. We'll see
to show back up
in Jimmy's book.
Jix,
yeah,
I believe her name was.
Jix, yeah, and he's taken her name. Bizarrely.
Yep.
So we have that going. Supergirl story, kind of. What Joe I kind of like about the Supergirl chunk is it's kind of like, okay, her space adventures are coming to an end to some extent soon, and this is kind of like setting up how she ties into the Superman story on her own, where the Danvers, we find out have split up. Supergirl doesn't know that though. She's kind of like searching the wreckage of the house, trying to like piece it together, and we see these flashbacks.
And she finds Jeremiah's ring, and she's like, "Well, he would never take this off. So what happened? Something bad happened."
Yeah.
And we see that they basically split up over the whole DEO attack, and she's kind of like, "Well, it's Jeremiah and Eliza." And Eliza's like, well, is this really such a bad thing? Because the DEO started to not be what it originally was for under Bones.
Yeah.
So maybe Leviathan's onto something, and Jeremiah just can't get behind that. So it looks like they separate, and he's moving out, and she's sitting there reminiscing about Kara when that blue creature comes up.
The Leviathan thing,
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we don't know if he's killing her or if he's teleporting her somewhere, but either way, Eliza's wrapped up in this like a lot of the other people.
Yeah. So I gotta look at who else has been abducted, but we know who they've been going after. And what if this isn't about removing them from a board, but it's about recruiting them into Leviathan? Right?
I can see that.
So Eliza, because Eliza's the one that was positive about Leviathan. When they went after Manhunter, right? And they've gone after Bones, but ultimately Bones didn't play ball, so he's out. So I'm wondering if at the end of this, Leviathan's not actually this big, shadowy, evil organization, and it's like this undercurrent. You know what I mean? That they're villainous in the way that they're trying to control things, but that's not their thing. They're not about destruction like Leviathan was under.
I mean, if they're teleporting her away and recruiting her, then blowing up the house seems like a bit excessive.
Well, they're covering their tracks, because there's no bodies. We keep seeing that,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and it seems like Leviathan himself or whoever is under the mask doesn't seem to want to play hardball, the way that.
Yeah. Although. Just to be clarified here, this blue thing that's doing the exploding and possible teleporting is not Leviathan, the leader. He's very different.
No,
different.
Whatever tool it is. Yeah, we don't know what this thing is. It's this big mass. It's kind of reminiscent of Doomsday with all of the spines on it, But we get Manhunter in the background here of the Supergirl story. Kate Spencer's running around in full gear, which we had last seen in action. So
yeah, I mean, we know what's coming up because one of the lowest covers has got
Manhunter.
Yeah,
that's the detectives stuff.
So it looks like Supergirl is also going to be kind of connected to the Leviathan plot a little bit as we go forward here for a little while, which is nice. And it's kind of odd because we have Leviathan as its own miniseries now on top of Superman in action. So
it's Event Leviathan.
Yeah, it's almost like we have. Action double shipping starting next month in a way. Mike's gone. Mike.
Also, in the book ended chapter, we get Good. She gets made partner in the Invisible Mafia because she's the leader's pissed that Leviathan got to her and figured out who she was.
Yeah.
So the Red Cloud take out her head of security because you don't make that mistake. You don't make a mistake.
Yeah, and she's going to take out the entire security team and get a whole new security team because someone clearly leaked where she was going to be. Someone gave someone details.
Mm-hmm. So she makes Red Cloud a member, like a partner, which I like that scene, and just because I like this type of villain, it's the complete opposite of what we're used to in Superman. You know, the big grandstanding, I'm gonna take out a whole city. She's like, no, we're not even gonna say the things associated with him.
Yeah, no, I've liked the secret mafia stuff. Cause this idea of like them operating without them noticing is really interesting. It is very different from Lex or you know whoever, or any of the more cosmic or alien villains, who are very much punchy, and this is not that.
Nope.
By any stretch. So no, so I mean Clark's back at the end, and it's like, okay, so I'm going to write a hell of an article about this.
Yep.
And everything else.
I love this page just in general because it shows, you know, it's Lois doing what she does best, and then like Perry's actually happy that Jimmy got the pictures, right? Because it looks like he's praising him here.
Yeah.
You know, and then you have Maggie Q. Wait, Maggie Q. What's her name? She's the gossip columnist. She's behind them.
Yeah, Maggie Q is an actress. I'm sure.
Yeah, she is. I know it's something Q.
I want to say Susie Q. Is that?
Yeah, that's a snack.
Something Q.
Yeah. Oh, man, I'm not drunk up.
Oh dear.
But yeah. But no, yeah, overly enjoyed this. I'm very excited for this going forward, for this event.
Yeah, no, I am too. I mean, we've been liking Ben and Superman a lot, so it's not surprising that we were both really into this. Yeah. This was 80 pages of of like all the super books, and I've been liking them all. And obviously, Raquel Lois is certainly nothing to be upset about. So, no, super good. I mean, are you excited for Lois and Jimmy, Connor?
Jimmy more so. Lois, I need to see context. If it's like investigating like this mystery or a mystery directly relating to, you know, Leviathan, I'm inherently significantly less excited about that. Just because, you know, I'm not following those, so you know, you would be less excited. Jimmy, it feels like sure he he phones Lois, you know, he texts Lois, right? You know, and so this is going on concurrently, and you know, it's happening at the same time. There was effects. Those events are having an effect in the sense that, well, Clark doesn't show up and get him, but it's so zany and fun that I feel like I'm just going to enjoy that book no matter what. So I'm kind of more excited for that in terms of just based on these two previews of what I could expect.
Yeah. No, I'm pumped. I think, you know, because we still don't know. Like, obviously, we don't know who Leviathan is, the leader, but we also don't know what their motive is, what their goals are. Like, there's a lot of mystery still. I mean, hell, even at the end of the book, it says mysteries continue in Leviathan. You know, on sale June, whatever. So I'm super into it. But like we've been saying, very different villains for Superman, which makes this very exciting. And Bendis is taking his time setting them up, so they don't just feel like thrown in for a quick. You know, a quick story, a quick jolt. This is like, no, we've been building this since the start of his run in action, and here we're getting to the kind of some of the payoff. And it's mixing with other villains that he set up, which are also interesting and different, which is nice. So how much is Secret Mafia and Red Cloud going to play into Leviathan? I expect they'll still be around after it. So, but I could see them, you know, having some part to play here. You know, maybe they get a chance to do more in the city because Superman's busy with Leviathan, perhaps. But yeah. Perkins was probably my favorite art in the issue.
I really like the Paquette stuff. I just, you know.
I really
Perkins is good too.
I like the Supergirl stuff as well. Actually, I thought that looked really solid. But yeah, what are you giving the Leviathan Rising Special, Matt?
A 9. I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
Cara, what are you giving the 40% you read?
Based off just what I read, 7.5. Jimmy probably drags up a little bit, whereas Lois was lacking context for me.
Sure. I'll go 8.5. But no, super excited for Event Leviathan. So that's that. Which takes us to another number one actually this week. The first issue of Batman: Last Night on Earth. Scott Snyder writing, Greg Capullo on the art. This is their Black Label swan song to Batman, which you two read. So By all means.
It's certainly something.
I came into this not wanting to like it, and by the end it won me over because I immediately figured out what this was.
Yeah, it's so it starts with, okay, there's this mystery that Batman's been tracking for like almost a year.
Yeah.
Every day, someone has been going and drawing like just a bit of chalk on a street.
A 5-foot line of chalk.
5-foot line of chalk, right, every day, and it's gone the next day, right? It's just, it's there for a little bit and it's gone. But now that, the year's nearly done, he's got almost a complete picture, and it's like an outline of Batman, like a murder body, a murder scene outline in chalk. It looks like that, and the heart is placed over Crime Alley.
Right, so he goes to Crime Alley, and
he gets this. There's this weird little zombie boy, is what I'm going to describe it as, which looks phenomenal, I should say. The art here.
Capullo's art here. This is the most I like Capullo's art in quite some time. Like, yeah, and as good as Metal and stuff was, this feels like it's on a different level.
I really like Capullo, and I loved him during Metal even. But this is like, this panel here of Batman looking at the zombie boy is phenomenal. And there's always is some sort of like there's some sort of mechanical elements. He starts, like clockwork, like gears are winding up.
It's very steampunk.
Yeah,
it's a steampunk zombie.
And it pulls up the arm raises and it pulls up a gun, and it shoots Batman. It shoots him in the stomachy area, is where it seems like the gun gets to. And then Bruce wakes up, and it's a story you've seen before. This concept, he's in Arkham Asylum, and everyone's telling him that it's Batman's not real. It's a delusion. Pete, you can make your reference in a minute. I know you're sitting there thinking it already.
I wasn't listening. Sorry. What?
Oh, it's the story where Batman, Bruce wakes up and he's in Arkham Asylum, and everyone's telling him, "Oh, Batman's not real. It was all a delusion you create from things around you."
And because the Doctor,
just like the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the episode "Normal Again," I believe is the title.
Yes,
in season 6.
Not the only TV show to have done that episode by any means. You've seen it, in plenty of places.
Sure. So like the Doctor looks like Joker, and he's wearing a flower.
But his name was Redmond Hood.
Right.
Hood. He is Red Hood and became the Joker.
And then you see everyone else that works there. So like his psychologist is Harley Quinn, and like his physical trainer is Bane. And you see some of the attendants are like, they're just like Riddler and Two-Face and this, and it was all like he's been
delusional. Crazy. Yeah. And he goes back to his cell, and he's like, there's got to be a way out. There's got to be a way out. And he kind of comes across a little hole in the padded cell, and he goes in. He's like, here you are. And he pulls out a little toy dinosaur and a penny.
Yep.
And he's terrified.
And Alfred tells him. Yeah, so Alfred comes to see him, and then he asks about his cowl. You find out that it gets super dark, as you find out the cowl is used for shock treatment. And he wears it right in. So there's this, he gets it on, and it's like a straight jacket with the Wayne insignia on the front, and Alfred comes
he's been
to visit
here
him
since his parents' murder is when he's been here since. And the Wayne Company, they bought out Arkham Asylum pretty much immediately after Bruce was sent here, so that they could have direct control over him. And so the design of the cowl is really interesting, because it's so it's all this like black leather helmet, protection from the shock therapy. The way the ears are is there's like a belt strapped around it. And it's just the bits at the end of the belt that's come out through the buckle are sticking up, and it has that ear effect. It's a fantastic piece of design work.
Yeah, but so Alfred comes and talks to him. Is like, we did this for your own good. We thought, but now it's gone too far. It's time to snap out. We did this treatment. It should work, right? But Batman's not buying it. And then they bring up the thing that I hated most about the Snyder run.
Oh yeah.
The stupid Batman machine.
Yeah, that's not there yet. There's
No.
I mean, yeah, I know. I groaned at that as well. It's the one thing about this issue I really actually dislike, because
me too.
It's a very surreal issue in what it's doing. It's completely different, but it sets up from the start that, okay, this isn't this isn't real, right? This is Bruce in the asylum isn't what's actually happening every time you see this story.
Yeah, so that's when we got to this point. And I was like, oh, this is not what I thought it was. So what this is going to be is Bruce in Arkham, and this whole adventure with the Joker head this is all just one of those delusions. And no, because once we find out about Alfred, and then you see that Alfred is actually older.
Yeah, so he's been using some face-changing tech to make him seem younger.
Right, as to not shock Bruce. Yeah. Right? But then they bring up the Batman machine, which in turn is a cloning machine as well. Which I didn't remember that part. I had blocked that part out.
Oh yeah, no, that was always the case. It cloned him, and at the age of 27 or something, because that was the ideal age to start.
Oh, God, I forgot about that, and I was happy I forgot about it.
Yeah, I know. But there's a fantastic sequence of him fighting through Arkham, like breaking out. Until Alfred, stops him, and he does, he doesn't attack Alfred immediately. But
had we not had Gary Frank this week, I would say Capullo is definitely.
This is top form Capullo, and the whole team as well. The Glapion and the colorist, blanking on the name now.
FCO.
FCO. Phenomenal stuff. The shadows on. There's the panel where you see Alfred, old for the first time properly without the digital effect anymore.
Yeah.
And it's him just saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry." It's a fantastic panel. It's so well rendered. The shadows, everything. It's just something else.
But yeah, so we find out that this is one of the Batman clones, and that he wasn't ready to come out yet. So this was all just prep for him before they go to what has happened, and that's what leads to this story. So he ends up, it looks like, coming up through the sand, which makes it a really cool visual.
Yeah, because we're in Arkham Asylum. It's all this dank, dark grays, grays and greens is all the color scheme.
Yep.
And then it's bright orange, reds, yellows in the desert, and Batman is, it's like he's digging himself out of a grave. He comes up through the sand, hand first, and then pulls the rest of him up, and it's a great image. He walks along a little bit, and he sees this lantern, in the sand. He goes over, he blows some of the sand off it, and it's Joker's head inside the lantern.
Yep, Batman and Noggin.
Yeah, Batman and Noggin. That's the team for this 3-issue adventure.
And this is when I realized this is just gonna be Old Man Bruce, but he's not old, because this is Snyder doing the Old Man Logan story of now. Bruce has to go across this country that's been changed by an event that
there's
we'll find out about.
Speed Force storms going on.
Yep. In that they left this Joker head out, almost like it's almost like not a threat, but like a warning.
It's half warning, half a guide.
Right.
And so he treks across this desert to Coast City.
Yep.
And he gets
2 days
there,
walk.
and Mogo's kind of there, but Mogo's in the sky, but dead. Yep. The central battery is destroyed, and they talk about how there's no Green Lanterns anymore. Mogo was sending them off, but to try and find someone, but he died in the process. And then there's just these random people have them who are not trained or really able.
No, but they also seem like zombies almost. Like the rings are more in control.
Yeah.
Than the people are.
Yeah, because they all make the same construct. All these people, they make these big giant demon babies. I call them demon babies because they're all kind of a bit misshapen, ugly.
Oh no, you
teeth.
Look at them, teeth and eyes with triple pupils.
Yeah, or like just a tiny dot of a pupil on one eye, and then the other eye is really wide and almost a bit more normal by comparison. But yeah.
So then, as he's fighting him, he starts to get walloped, and this door opens from nowhere, and it looks like Vixen comes out, and they're in these.
It's like, get in here, right, but invisibility again.
Yep, invisible tank, and they talk about Omega, and like, don't you know Omega has scouts all over these parts? Hell, Bane and Scarecrow, they were just sighted a few days ago.
Yeah,
and Ivy's driving.
Yeah, Ivy's in here, and she's, they're like, oh, hey, Vixen's like, hey, this looks like the real deal here, doesn't it? But and Ivy just smacks him with a plant.
Yep. Does Ivy have a nose piercing? Is that what that is, or is that just art?
Do you know what? No, it's consistent on all of it. I think it's a nose piercing. Because Vixen doesn't have that.
No, so that's what I was just wondering. But so he gets knocked out. He wakes up, and it looks like in this jewel cavern, and Vixen is poking him with a spear, and it's Vixen. You got Supergirl there.
Yeah.
All their uniforms are kind of tattered. Looks like Ivy. I don't know who the girl is. That supposed to be Huntress?
No, I think it's supposed to be Donna Troy.
Okay. But she's got like a star kind of.
It's star on her face, yeah. Yeah.
It makes sense.
Weird.
Donna Troy.
But I'm going by the belt and the the black and the silver.
But their leader comes, says the Amazons get away. So it seems that these are the new Amazons. Yeah. And someone walks up wearing it looks like Wonder Woman wearing Fate's helmet.
Yeah, but she says no, that there's no magic anymore. Magic's dead. This here, it's just a helmet, not Fate. But like anything she goes, just like there's no Batman or Wonder Woman.
Yep, and it says basically who killed the world, and she cuts him loose.
Yeah, and then we get some exposition. They're hiding deep in Gemworld.
Yeah,
because it's got this natural protections from all the shit
from
that's
Omega.
Going down.
Yeah, we get hinted at Omega's this villain again, but because Gemworld exists out of space time. So they're safe, but they're breeding Pegasus and to basically protect the ones who are left. They're going to be the ones that do this. Yeah, and it's the survivors.
We get a little bit of history and exposition here. And we're talking about Omega, and obviously the first thing your mind jumps to with Omega is Darkseid, right?
Right.
But we see these shadowy figures holding up Darkseid's head.
Yeah.
So that probably rules him out.
Yeah, but basically it plays into what Snyder was doing before, that that Doom has taken over, right, with Luthor.
Yeah.
And so Luthor basically managed to instill Doom, and when he did that, it empowered Omega.
Yeah,
right?
and it's the way he did it, not through overthrowing all the heroes by empowering the villains, but by empowering the people.
Yeah. And so they storm into the Hall of Justice and they take everybody out.
Yeah.
And they take Batman first. So that's why there's this clone here.
Yeah.
But his rumor is that he found the anti-life equation, but he's not using it. And they fought alongside of the villains. In the final war, we lost. He's beyond powerful. He's taken the anti-life equation and has taken over the East Coast with it. Rumor is he found a way, a means to amplify it 1,000-fold, controlling the minds of every living being on the planet. So that's why they're underneath in Gemworld, because it protects the 100,000 survivors of all of this.
And it explains the zombie kind of people all doing the same baby. It's all one being controlling.
Because it's anti-life, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so, but the problem with this Bruce is that he's more of an echo and like a ghost, because it's not really Bruce. It's just the idea of Bruce in a clone, which I think that'll be interesting when we get to see what this means. Is he Batman? Is this what this whole challenge is?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what the core theme of this book is going to be. What makes him Batman? Is it the experiences? Is it the memories?
Right.
Is it the ability? Because this Bruce here, he has the languages, the detective skills, the martial arts. Does that make him Batman?
Right.
That's the key concept here.
But so we know that Diana's around, but Bruce asks about Clark. But basically, she's like, she she's heard the folktales about him being alive in the Plains of Solitude, but she watched Clark fall with her own eyes, and that these are just lies. I don't think so. I think we are going to get to see Superman.
I do as well.
At a certain point.
I think it's going to be not a nice sight when we see Superman.
No, but I also feel like that Superman's an important character to Batman, especially through Snyder.
Oh yeah.
Because we've seen them, the whole part of Endgame.
Say what you want about Snyder's take on Batman, but he had his Bruce and Clark relationship was always very good.
Yeah, and so that's why I feel like they put this out here, as a hint. But I do feel like whatever it's going to be, it's going to shock Bruce, and he's going to want to carry the memory of Clark and what Clark represented.
Yeah.
Going forward. But yeah, so this is where I was like, oh, this is just Old Man Logan, but with Batman now. And I'm not mad about that.
No, it's I'm down for this. This is not what I expected. It ends with, okay, Bruce takes the bat suit that Diana left for him.
Yep.
And he goes off out into the wilds with the Joker head.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure, we've got all these narration boxes throughout the issue, we're talking about the adventures that him and Batman have had. And you kind of get at the end that, okay, no, this is the Joker head talking.
Yep.
And it's at the end is, we set off for parts unknown, Batman and I, on one last adventure together.
Yep.
And it's a gorgeous page of the black against the red.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very much. But in between that, right before he goes off and takes the bat suit, you find out that Diana's taking them down to Hades because they'll be safe there from Omega. Which Bruce is like, we can't do that. Like, these are living people. She's like, oh, I already talked to Hades himself. Like,
we got a deal.
Fine.
He's setting a little bit aside for us.
Yeah,
but makes you question what did she have to offer in return?
Right, and this is what I like here is he talks to a kid, and basically he's like, you're really Batman, right? So like, are you like a bat? Like, can you do those things? Like, you can see in the dark. And Bruce explains to him, he's like, well, no.
Bats don't see in the dark. It's all about, echoes. They use their voices to find their way through.
Mm-hmm. And he says, we're not allowed to make noise down here. It disturbs everybody. So he goes and does it. And I feel like this is a good... it shows his humanity.
Yeah. It's obviously it's addressing the themes of, okay, is this just an echo or is he really,
right.
Bruce? Is this him? And it's him kind of defying the rules and going, no, screw whatever they're saying. We're doing what we're gonna do. It's him kind of being his own man by not being just an echo. Is what this moment is.
And also, we skimmed over that there's rumors that Omega's one of Bruce's kids.
Yeah.
And that so we'll get to see. I'm excited to see where this goes.
This is so densely packed. Because it's split into like 4 parts. Obviously, it's it's quite long as well. It's these prestige format books. But this was kind of not what I was expecting at all,
nope.
And it was really a great surprise.
Well, and when it started, because we were sold on Batman and Joker's head going through Wasteland of what's left of Earth. So when I open it up and he's in Arkham, I'm like, what in the hell is going on? And the good first half of the book is all of that.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, third, I'd say.
Yeah, okay. And then we get to all this other stuff about the Wasteland, and you see the Green Lanterns, and you get Vixen and the Amazons, and you get the thing that this has gone bad real fast.
Yeah.
So what has happened? And yeah, I wasn't expecting to like this as much as I did.
Yeah. So, me either, because I'm more positive on Snyder than both of you. In general, I mean, Matt's not always down him, but I'm definitely more positive on Snyder's Batman.
I'll tell you. Well, I like his Batman up until
a point, yeah.
Yeah, up until Bat Gordon, and Bat Gordon starts to go off the rails for me. That said, I did love Mr. Bloom as a villain, just because
it was great. Yeah,
how different he was. But Snyder's this is, I feel, back to basics. I don't feel like I was reading a textbook.
Yeah, it's weird because all the things we're saying sound insane, and I think that was part of my concern going in. Is this just too out there for Snyder's last Batman story? And then it's actually surprisingly down to earth in the way it's written, and the core concept is sure it's kind of an alternate future and Bruce clones and stuff, but it's all about who is Bruce, what makes him Batman, and that's very prevalent throughout, and it's a really strong through line. And then the art team are killing it. This is some of their best work together, and these guys have been working together for a long time now.
Yeah. Well, I'm just hoping this becomes a refutation of the Bat God trope because of all this, because that's what I was feeling with the Bat Machine, right? That Bruce is playing God. But if that was introduced to tell this story, then I think I'll be okay with it, because if that's what it builds that up to say, well, no, Batman's the sum of his experiences, which I felt that was always Snyder's take on him, and it wasn't the Bat God.
I would even go as far as to speculate that Omega might be one of the other Bruce clones, but then had different experiences.
Right.
And it's like, no, Bruce isn't just Batman because he's cloned to be Batman.
Right.
Those experiences he has from there on out,
right?
Are
because
still
it's
what
not
makes him who
Omega.
he is.
Yeah, Omega's the end of the world, but it's not because of the death of Batman. So that could be. I didn't think about that till now. That and that's what I mean. He's one of Batman's kids.
Yeah, it would still play into that
Right.
idea, right?
And I think that's more interesting than it being Jason or Dick or Tim or even Damian. You know,
Like I can see reasons to do all of those, and any of those, if that is the case, as long as it's got a good point in the story, I'm okay with that. Like there's none of them inherently I'm like, oh, I really don't want it to be this.
Yeah.
But I think another clone is the one that makes the most sense thematically to me.
Yeah, I like that. I like this certainly hell of a lot more than any of the Batman Who Laughs bullshit. So.
Oh yeah, I've been enjoying Batman Who Laughs well enough. It's got problems, but I mean, it's probably my least favorite Snyder work in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But this is back on top form, and it sounds like it's so huge and out there, but it's a really down to earth personal story at its core.
Yeah.
And I'm really into this.
All right, so what you rating it?
I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Oh, me too. Okay,
cool.
We lined up.
Pete's missing out on this one.
Yeah.
Backloads, I'm good.
See, that's what I thought too, and then I got to the end.
and then he read it.
I want the next issue.
Yeah. Sucks that it's like 2 months till the next one.
All right, well, that's the last books of the new stuff this week, and of DC specifically as well, which is a weird thing to say on the DC Comics podcast. But we do have a set of Patreon picks, which are Marvel books. So if those of you don't know, we do have a tier on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, where you can pay a relatively high amount and make me or Connor read a book once a month. So we each have one book to do this week. I'm doing X-Men issue 3. We stopped doing elsewhere on the Multiverse, which we used to do these. So if you want to hear me talk about issues 1 and 2, you can find those on that. But yeah, so this is X-Men issue 3 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Not often I get to say Stan Lee and Jack Kirby when I'm talking about what books we're about to talk about. So this issue introduces the Blob. This is the first appearance, I believe, of the Blob. And more notably, though, I mean, I think I spoke about this a little bit in one of the first 2 issues, but I think this one suffers the most so far out of some of the dated
60s-ness.
Well, specifically how Jean is spoken about and treated by the male characters.
You think that's bad. You go, right, well, it's the 60s. I've got language in my issue that you go, oh, that would not fly today.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even so much language; it's just more just the sentiments,
attitude.
that are being given. Because the training, they've got like a cannon that's firing barrels into the air at them in the training room, and it's not a danger room yet, right? I don't think we'll use that phrase yet. At least it doesn't in this issue anyway. But yeah, so they're dodging whatever, and end up bickering with each other, and Beast gets pissed at Iceman, and then Angel makes Iceman pissed at him, and fighting ensues. Jean's been told to put a block of wood telekinetically through various shapes and holes and loops to practice. But then beware, Xavier gets a sense. There's a mutant. There's a new mutant in town. And they basically show that he's sort of looking for the mutant in the world by having his just eyes drawn into the background, looking around for this mutant. Here's where, so they're getting ready for civilian clothes. This may be the first issue that shows us that Angel actually straps his wings down to his back when he's like dressed in regular civvies, which I thought, okay, it's cool that they're actually addressing that this early on. But yeah, so Hank sort of runs past them and says, "Oh, we have to get there. We have to be the first one there. The first one who's there at the meeting gets to escort Jean, and that means Hank McCoy. So then he starts to run, but then Bobby starts running. "No, slowpokes, I'm going to team with Jean." So they're basically running so that one of them will be teamed with Jean. And then there's a thought bubble from Cyclops as they're all running towards the room that she's in, saying, "Of all the girls I've ever met, she's the one I'd give my heart to, but I don't dare, not while I possess my dread power." Because in the training scene, there's like a thought bubble from him where he's like scared of using his powers and hurting people. It's a whole thing. But here's the one that really shocked me. The guys are all really terrible with Jean, and that they're all just basically competing to try and win her affection, and that's all they're obsessed about. And that's the part that feels dated. But here's the part that really shocked me. Professor X has a thought bubble. Professor X thinks the following. This is on page 4 of X-Men issue 3. Don't worry, because he's just said to Jean, "Don't worry," or she said that to him. Don't worry, as though I could help worrying about the one I love, but I can never tell her. I have no right, not while I'm the leader of the X-Men and confined to this wheelchair. So he's got the hots for Jean.
Charles, you nasty boy.
And the two problems he thinks he has here is that one, he's the leader, so it'd be inappropriate, and two, that he's in a wheelchair. That second one just feels like surreally
what
indated.
I like about it is it says, while I'm confined to this wheelchair, like he's got plans.
He's expecting to be out of it, yeah, at some point. But I mean, implying that someone in a wheelchair can't be in a romantic relationship is problematic on its own. At no point, though, does he think, maybe I shouldn't have the hots for a teenager.
No, not at all. That's not the problem.
That's not the problem.
60s were a different time.
Very clearly. And then Angel picks her up, officer and gentleman style, and throws her into his car. And he's like, "No, I'm going to drive Jean to the location." And
mind you, she can telepathically move herself.
Yeah.
But no, Angel has to do it.
And she's just like, "Warren Wellington III, must you be such a show off?" And yeah, so we get like a montage of them in the city looking for whoever this mutant might be. And at one point, I think it's Bobby thinks that he sees someone like with a heat beam, but it turns out he's using a magnifying glass. And then Beast thinks he sees someone floating in the sky, so he climbs the building with his powers. And it turns out that it's actually people putting up like an advertising sign, and he was standing on like a glass box, so he looked like he was floating. Kind of comical, but hey ho. Cyclops is checking out the local fair. He thinks one of the shooter dudes is the mutant, but it turns out no, the Blob. The Blob's this attraction. And look at the Blob can stand and not be moved even by 12 men. He can even get shot, and he fires the bullets out from his belly, because it's not that they penetrate him; they sort of suck into his fat, and then he sort of makes them pop out, kind of,
Yeah, because it stops. That's his mutant power. He robs kinetic energy from things when it gets into his stomach.
Yes. And of course, when Cyclops and Jean go to speak to him, Blob's got the hots for Jean as well. Because of course,
who doesn't?
Yeah, well now.
Amen, brother. Amen, brother.
Now you're talking my language. I'll go if me and this cutie tomato can sit in the rumble seat. Heh heh. Have you ever referred to as a tomato, Connor, for being ginger? I
mean, probably.
So I was gonna say something bad. I'm not going to now.
Oh dear. So they want him to come back to the mansion. He's not really for it at first, but then they explain who they are. So he comes back. Xavier's testing him. A big chain, try to move him. Bobby freezes his foot on a block of ice, but he just twitches his toe and it shatters. It's a whole thing. So he, there's a whole thing. Eventually he goes to. He's going to accidentally tumble into Xavier, and Jean moves him telekinetically backwards, and all the rest of it. So after all this shenanigans, he wants to Xavier says, "Okay, I'm going to offer you to join the X-Men," and he's like, "No, I don't need you guys. I'm good." And Xavier's like, "Wait, what? This is unheard of." I'm going to actually read you the exact bubble. "This is unheard of. No one has ever refused us before. You cannot be permitted to leave now that you know our identities. This is out of the question. Stop him, my X-Men. I must drive this memory from his mind. Take him to my lab." And then that's, when the fighting breaks out. So, Xavier... Now, obviously, okay, you've got a plan that you'll just wipe the memory of whoever, refuses, right? Because they can't know who you are. Fine. But his reaction here really cracked me up, because it was like... This is unheard of. How dare you? To his credit, though, to Stanley's credit in the writing, Xavier a couple of pages later says, "Oh, I was being, arrogant, assuming that he would want to join us." He actually addresses it in the writing, so I'll give them some points for that. But it really stuck out to be his reaction. So the rest of the plot of the issue is that the Blob basically gets everyone else at the circus and the fairgrounds and turns them into like an army for him, and they come back and attack the mansion and something of a siege. Meanwhile, Xavier's building this like amplifier for his powers, not Cerebro, just like a sort of cannon thing, so he can wipe the memory of who they are in Blob, and he knows he's going to bring people, so he's like, okay, this will do a whole crowd of people. I can wipe the memory from everyone, and everyone's kind of waiting for them, and it's like a proper siege. They've got a battering ram and everything, and because it's people from the circus, it's like they do this thing where Beast like fights a couple of acrobats, which is like, oh, that's funny. All right, that's cute, right? And then you have Beast fighting like a gorilla as well. You have a guy shot out of a cannon at Angel while he's flying.
Not mad at that.
It's a whole thing. Cyclops fights an elephant. Because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? They actually get beat. The X-Men, like, one by one. There's a human pound at one point. They literally beat Cyclops because someone runs up behind him with a sack and puts the sack over his head with a rope around it. And they're all Jean's been blindfolded and all the rest of it. They eventually get out of this. The angry mob are coming for Xavier in the mansion, and Xavier just like contacts Jean telepathically and says, "Jean, you've got telekinesis. Use that to remove your restraints and then free the others." And like, I'll forgive her here because she's a rookie, but I do kind of feel like all that happened here was that he contacted and said, "Hey, your powers, use them. You can remove your blindfold with your mind. Go for it." Although I do like that she uses a knife from like one of the circus like trucks has like the circle of knives for like the throwing stuff. She uses one of those, so neat touch. So yeah, she's from this point on, her telekinesis becomes very handy. She actually wraps everyone up in a big like blanket to like trap them, except Blob, who Cyclops just blasts the floor from under him, and yeah, telekinesis is used. They all forget who they are, or not who they are, but why they're there, and who the X-Men are, and they're back in the circus, and the X-Men are like, okay, the end. And that is X-Men 3.
Riveting.
I enjoyed the second half of this, actually. See, once it got to the Blob's bringing an army of circus folk to siege the mansion. It's over the top and ridiculous, but it's fun. Like, you have all these various like circus acts like fighting with various X-Men. There's something.
Do you know what I can see this being? Like an episode of a series of unfortunate events.
Yes.
With the Blob being Olaf.
Yes. It is. That's totally what it is. The first half suffer. I mean, the first half has some good stuff as well. When they try to find whoever the meta is, there's some fun stuff in there. The Jean stuff is maybe the worst it's been this issue, where everyone's just like, "Oh no, there's one woman in the book. We have to all try to have sex with her repeatedly, including Professor X." That stuff was a bit grating. So probably the weakest of the three issues so far, but still some fun entertainment to be had at various points. But yeah, that's X-Men issue 3. Connor, you're reading Generation X issue 3. You can tell us who it's by.
It is by He Who Must Not Be Named. and anyone who listens to this show already knows that is. That's fine. And on art is my favourite, Chris Bachelo.
Any episode could be someone's first episode. Scott Lobdell is the writer, you will find.
You said it, not me. I will not utter his name.
Cold shiver down Matt's spine there.
Yeah, this picks up literally right where we left off. It was I think last issue they were all searching the grounds for Penance. I think that's her name. Yeah. And it ended with her attacking Banshee.
I'm glad you specified that was a character, because I really thought it was just Penance and like they're looking for penance.
No.
Penance is this this big red spiky thing who is apparently a girl.
Yeah.
It's you'll find out. Keep going.
Yeah. The best thing about this book,
there's
Matt,
something else to her.
Yeah. The best thing about this book, Matt, from what Carr's been telling us the last 2 issues, is all of the transitional like captions.
Yeah.
There is less of those this time. I mean, there's some. Yeah. We'll get to them. So I mean, I don't know if it doesn't have one at the opening, which is fine. It doesn't need one. Although it does play its first bubble in the same first box, in the same format as the establishing ones, because the regular narration boxes are just yellow, whereas the establishing ones have a red like border around it. And this one, it just says he's supposed to scream, but it treats it as if it's an establishing panel, but it's not. So I don't know. That was a bit of a weird thing. The whole first page is how he should be able to just scream his way out of this, because that's kind of his whole power. But she's got his fingers in his mouth, so he can't. That's the whole first page. But there's like six word boxes telling us that. But eventually,
so you loved it, is what you're saying. It was the best thing ever.
It was riveting. Yeah. No, he ends up just double kicking her in the gut and kicking her off him, and then he's back in action, and then he goes, you hear this sound off panel is where it comes from, and he's like, oh, what on earth's that? And he goes, oh, it's a sound of her before, but never like that, and it's the sound of husking, when she gets rid of her skin and comes a new one. And this is something about I think she is called Husk. Is I didn't know about the power that hadn't been established yet in this book. Is so she sheds her skin, and that helps heal her injuries and stuff like that. Is this the way it's been used so far? It turns out she can actually kind of shapeshift whenever she does this. That's the point that they're metamorphic transmutations is what they're referred to as, and it's because recently it's always just resembled her original form, which is just the blonde girl. So this time there's lives at stake. She comes out as this big kind of rock looking monster. She's still like recognizably her, a bit bigger, but seemingly made out of rock is kind of the impression. Maybe, I don't know if she actually is or not, but that's the way it looks. And they have a bit of a tussle. She gets some scrapes because Penance has some sharp claws that can cut through her. And then Banshee, does some screaming, and they get free, and they're all right. But they do question. He's like, okay, so when you change back to your normal form, what's going to happen with those injuries? Because those are pretty bad on your souped up body here. What are they going to be like on your regular one? And like, I don't know. We'll just have to find out. And this is where we have our first cutaway. We have an interlude, because we had one of these last issue as well, and I really hate these because they're just random. It's a page. It's a guy on this island. And it's his island, and I can't remember. I don't remember his name. Mondo, was that something like that? Yeah, is that right? Okay, see, Matt knows better than I do. Mm-hmm. He's just there going, yeah, this is my island. It's cool. I just did what I was going to do, and we'll worry about things later. That's kind of the whole interlude here is just him chatting with the girl and going, yeah, this is my island, and then we cut back. So the interlude didn't have an establishing thing; it just said interlude along the side, but not in the normal format. But we cut back now. It does say Xavier's. You have got, what's his name? Skin. I think his name's Skin. He's on monitor duty, watching out. And you've got Sync and Jubilee, running out, trying to find the others. They're still trying to help catch Penance. Sync's powers, I think it seems to be he has an aura that syncs up with the powers of whoever he's near, and it kind of copies their powers. So Penance has skin that can't be penetrated, so neither can his force field aura around him, in theory. Is what they say, and they don't want to test it out too much, but it seems to hold up for a couple of blows at least.
It's kind of like Rogue, but the person has to be near. It's not like an absorbing thing. He's like Bluetooth mutant powers. You sync up with them, and then you can use them.
Okay, yeah. I mean, this book is not doing a great job of teaching me all the powers. Like, I mean, this is the third issue, and I'm only just figuring. To be honest, I don't think we've even seen his powers in use before. Maybe briefly, but that's all we really get from that. There, they have a bit of a fight, but Penance kind of she runs off like she just decided not to kill them. Like she couldn't be bothered, and they're not really sure what's going on. But this is when Banshee shows up carrying Husk. It's like, right, like get her back to the infirmary. We'll stay out here and help. We have a cutaway here. It just says someplace else. And there's a mystery guy in a mechanical suit talking to someone. He's like, yeah, but this is why I was doing this thing, but this is what happened. And he shows it, and his armor just falls apart. It's all these exposed wiring. Everything's just kind of hanging out. And it ends with the person he's talking to going, "Oh, shush, child, you did nothing wrong. This just means Nanny's little boy is growing up." And I have no idea what any of this was about. I have no idea who these characters are. It feels extremely random in this issue, just kind of placed in just in the middle, just here. But okay, we cut back, new establishing page. It's the Riverside. It is. It's the others now fighting Monet and Emma Frost. Fighting Penance now. They've found her. So now it's their turn to have a bit of a fight, and that goes down fine. Banshee shows up and helps a bit more. This is they're talking about, there must be something going on, and we get a little bit of like talking about. Because Penance was dropped off by Gateway, which was this Aboriginal dude who doesn't seem to speak. And
he was from the X-Men when they died, and they were sent to the outback of Australia. He was one of the ones they found. But yeah, he's a teleporter.
Like the leftovers.
Yeah. But this is where we get a thought bubble, which I said didn't age too well. And it's just her going, "Oh, Gateway might be a spaz, but he's the same spaz that hooked me up with the X-Men." I'm like, yeah, okay. You wouldn't really put that now. It stuck out because the rest of it's not been that bad in terms of language. Not like the stuff Pete's been covering from the 60s where it was extremely over. This just it came out of nowhere, so it actually caught me off guard more. But no, we got Jonathan now, who is the guy they rescued from the mutant who started all this in the first issue, the evil one.
Chamber.
Yeah, but he was being controlled by the same thing, being controlled by the same thing that's linked with Penance now, and he just talks to her instead of tries to fight him with her. With all the rest of them, is like, no, we're kindred spirits. All of this, I'm tired of running. Let's prove that we don't want to actually hurt everyone. And she has a bit of a moment and calms down and just stops attacking, and that's the end of that. Really, although the plot comes to an end there because they solved it by talking to her, which is fine. It seems a little bit weird because there was no real scenes of them beforehand. Jonathan's kind of been a side player so far in this. He was there in the first issue. He was. Because he was kind of the MacGuffin in the first issue, and then the second issue was around a little bit, and this issue he's not even in the issue at all until he shows up at the end to just kind of talk her down. So it feels like it comes out of nowhere a bit, but it's not terrible. I'm fine with the sentiment of it. It's just a bit clunky. But then I got a bit of an epilogue. We cut 3 days later, and you got Skin and Husk having some more banter, playing Scrabble again like they were. She calls him out saying, "Hey, you volunteered for monitor duty. I think you were scared because I think he's kind of indestructible sort of thing. His skin doesn't tear, he doesn't cut or bleed or anything like that by the sound of it. But Penance, what the part of Penance's thing is, she can cut through anything, no matter what, like with almost minimal effort. So it was the idea that he was scared that he would actually, be cut for once. So he decided to stay out of it, and that's the end of the issue. They just have some banter at the end, and it tells me the next issue is a holiday special, which I'm going to read in the middle of July.
So do you want to know about this Penance, or do you want to find out for yourself? Because it's super convoluted.
Will it make me more interested if I know in advance?
No. It's probably going to make you rage. It's the most 90s X-Men thing.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay. Because I don't think it comes for a while.
I'll rage in my own time.
All right.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, it was probably better than the last couple of issues. The interludes and the someplace else, it still feels just super fragmented. Like it's just there. The flow in general is again, it feels very separate chunks. Like, okay, here's the Banshee chunk. Now here's that, because they're all still split up in pairs like they were last issue. So it doesn't really feel like a team in any sort of way. It just feels like three separate plots that happen to be going to the same villain, kind of. Penance being the villain here. She's not really. And it kind of feels very fragmented because of that. But this definitely had the least establishing panels. I probably like the art the least in this issue. It's even scratchier than it has. This is why I don't like Bachelo. I don't like how scratchy his work is. And it's even more so in this, which was frustrating. I mean, it's probably like a 4. Yeah.
All right. Well, that actually gets the books over and done with, and we can finally get to the point of the show where we rate. Well, not rate. Sorry, we pick our favorites of the week. We do our favorite panel / moment. We do our best art, best cover, and top 5 books, or just rank the books in this case because it wasn't enough to have 5 each. So yeah. So best panel / moment, Matt, and what panel from Doomsday Clock is it?
Oh, it's the Legion showing up. I loved it. Made me emotional.
Okay. I'm going to say, I'm tempted to go with the JSA page where we're introduced them all one by one, or even just the full thing where them sit at the table. But I actually think I'm going to go with the first, like, and now Superman doesn't exist anymore. Like, things have changed. That moment, because that was the moment where I went, oh, this is what it's doing, and I got really excited. So that's my pick.
I was also tempted to go with the JSA page because, of course, I am. It's me.
Right.
But I'm going to go with just the 3 or 4 panels that actually set up. No, this is the metaverse, because that was the bit where you were saying that when you got to Superman, which I totally get. But for me, when I got to that, when they were like, okay, no, they're establishing a whole concept. They've named it. This is a thing. That was so exciting going forward that I was just, I was into it.
All right, best cover of the week then, Matt.
Doomsday Clock, black and white. That one looks so good.
Connor?
That is a real nice cover. I'm actually going to go with Batman Last Night on Earth. With the Batman against the red carrying the Joker Lantern head. I think it's just a gorgeous cover. But I mean, so's Doomsday Clock. But I mean, I want to give Batman something this week.
I'm going to agree with the Doomsday Clock cover, just to be boring, basically.
I mean, it's a very good cover.
Yes.
I've got not got a bad thing to say about it. I just didn't want everything I picked to be Doomsday Clock. I really like the variant for Batman Last Night on Earth though as well. Like that's a Jock variant, which is fantastic.
All right. Best art of the week, Matt.
Gary Frank, Doomsday Clock.
Connor.
Yeah, why are we even asking this week?
Just say it. I need to hear the words.
Gary Frank, Doomsday Clock.
I will also pick Gary Frank, Doomsday Clock. All right. We've praised his art from the issue 1 of that book onward. I don't think we have to go into it too much. So ranking the books, I think all of us had 4, or did Matt have 5?
I don't think we even had 5 books between us, did we?
No, it was only 4. Yeah. I didn't read last night. I've got 3. Shit.
Yeah, I've only got 3. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, Matt's got 4.
Well, I've got 2.5.
All right, Matt. How you ranking your 4 books?
Number 1, Doomsday Clock. Number 2, Leviathan Rising. Number 3, Batman Last Night on Earth. and 4 Heroes in Crisis.
Yes. Connor.
Well, Doomsday Clock, obviously. Batman Last Night on Earth, obviously, and then what I read of Leviathan Rising, which I did enjoy. So I mean, not a terrible week from the 3 I read.
Number 1 for me is obviously Doomsday Clock. Number 2 is Superman Leviathan Rising. Number 3 is Heroes in Crisis. Although
there's a significant chasm between them.
There is. There's a chasm between number 2 and 3. As I imagine there is for Matt between 3 and 4.
If you take out Heroes in Crisis, I know there's not many books this week, but we all really enjoyed our books.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Like, take out the Heroes in Crisis, all the negativity of this week goes away.
Yeah, like this is a super positive week. I mean, I think I gave Leviathan Rising like a 7.5, but that was only because I read half of it. I still really like what I did read. It's good.
Yeah, so I did remember to ask people on the Twitters at DC Comics Podcast. You can get asked answer this every week. What your favorite book of the week was and why. And we did get a couple people saying, "What's the point of asking? It's going to be Doomsday Clock. Everyone's going to say Doomsday Clock."
Did everyone say Doomsday Clock?
Not everyone, no. But
please tell me no one said Heroes in Crisis.
We got some sass. I don't know. I can't see them all at one time here. Come on. So at Carve_Nelson, Doomsday Clock and Batman Last Night on Earth were head and shoulders above any other DC book this week. Hard to choose between the two, but I'll give it to Doomsday Clock. Loved the whole meta concept of the book. Here's an odd pick. At Nuclear Blizzard. Nuclear Blizzard, is that like the 10th like cold based villain in DC? Is he campaigning? Captain Carrot's Crisis on Earth 26 and Dog Days of Summer was my pick for this week.
Oh, shoot.
It was like Judge Dredd cameoed on Looney Tunes.
I'm going to have to go and read that
now.
Yeah.
Me and Matt are terrible.
Yeah. Tom Superman's just giving me sass. It's Doomsday Clock.
Yeah.
As was that Corey YNWA. Is this a serious question? Is it an idiot test to see who won't pick Doomsday Clock? Yeah. At Black_Vulcan69, Doomsday Clock 10 for the win. I've read it 3 times and I'm still analysing and processing the ramifications and the revelations within the issue. So much to process. But we did get at Wakanda Queen MZA, Superman Leviathan Rising, everything from the illustrations to the story. Love it. And then there was a couple more for Doomsday Clock and Last Night on Earth. So it was maybe more varied than I would have thought it would have been, but yeah, obviously we were all pretty unanimous.
Not much Leviathan Rising in there. Seems people prefer Last Night on Earth over Leviathan Rising for the most part as their second choices.
Yeah, I mean,
not I'm saying it. I'm just out of the 3 big books that seemed to be the one that wasn't getting really mentioned.
I mean, it's the sort of thing where like people who are saying Doomsday Clock might pick Leviathan Rising before Last Night on Earth.
Week. Yeah.
But the people who are picking Last Night on Earth maybe just don't like Bendis, or
it's very possible.
I don't know, but that's it. So I'll tell you what's coming next week on the show. We will be having Deceased issue 2, Batman 72, Justice League 25, The Green Lantern issue 8, Young Justice issue 6, Adventures of the Super Sons issue 11. Are you still reading Female Furies, Matt?
No, I'm gonna pass.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And from what I heard earlier, we'll also have Shazam issue 6. So look forward to that. Also next week, which we will not be covering, is Batman TMNT issue 3, or sorry, number 3 issue 2, Deathstroke issue 44, and Harley Quinn 62. So yeah, that's what's coming up next week on the show. So look forward.
Worth noting that Justice League next week is 25, so it is oversized.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good point. So yeah, check out the show next week. Let us know what you thought of the books that we brought up this week. Your heated opinions on Doomsday Clock or Heroes in Crisis or Leviathan Rises.
Would now be an appropriate time to bring up some news.
Was there new news?
There was. It's not huge news, but there was news, and I feel like Matt would like the news.
Okay,
go ahead.
Bring up the news.
there was some book convention going on. I don't know the exact name of it, and they revealed a new DC Inc. book. This one is following on the Teen Titans line. We got Beast Boy, and it's the same artist as the Raven one.
Yeah, I just saw that as I was skimming through stuff.
So this was just announced while we were recording.
Bachelo.
And, Bachelo doing the art, and I'm glad to see the confidence in the line that they're still announcing more, and a sequel to the Raven one, kind of, in the sense that the Teen Titans line before that one's even out. So that's real cool.
Yeah.
Yep, because Raven one comes out soon.
I'm excited.
So yeah, should be good.
All right. So yeah, let us know what you thought of the books, the comments, like, subscribe. If you want to help the show out, if you're on the podcast app, give us a good rating and review on your iTunes app or whatever. It helps us out a lot, gets the show out to more people. You can also help us, of course, financially if you go to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month, and you get some stuff early, you get some exclusives, all that kind of thing, across all the content we have.
Please don't make us read more of Lobdell.
If you want to make Connor read more
Lobdell,
you can make Pete read some. Don't tell me that, Matt.
It gets worse. Wait till you learn about the St. Croix children.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. So yeah, go have a look see. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching. It's been a long show, guys. This has been like a 3-hour show.
Yeah, I know.
Keep reading DC Comics, guys. We love you loads. But remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
And long live the Legion. Finally.